After the family reunion, I checked my bank account. It was empty. My brother-in-law scoffed. We needed it more than you. I was shaking. I grabbed my bag and said, then you won't mind what's coming next. They laughed, but suddenly the door crashed open. You're really upset about this? Seth asked, leaning on the fridge, holding a beer, grinning like nothing was wrong. Relax, we needed it more than you. I stared at my phone, hitting the refresh button on my banking app again and again, but the balance still said $487. That couldn't be right. I had over $14,000 just yesterday. 14,000, you what? My voice cracked. Sarah, sitting on the couch, sipped her wine, completely calm. She laughed. Don't be so dramatic, she said. It's not like we stole it. We're family. You emptied my account. It's not stealing if we're going to pay it back. Seth shrugged. Eventually. I was speechless. I looked at Mom, knitting in her chair, not even looking up. Mom, I said louder, did you know about this? She sighed like I had asked her to do a chore. Sweetheart, you're always so sensitive. You've got a good job, no mortgage, no kids, you're fine. So, that makes stealing okay? Language, Mason, Dad muttered, not looking up from his phone. I turned to Sarah. How did you even get into my account? You left your info on the family computer, she said, unapologetic. Maybe next time don't leave it open. Honestly, it's your own fault. My own, I stopped myself, trying to control my anger, my fists clenched, and I was breathing hard. You're making a bigger deal than it is, Seth said. It's not like we spent it on junk. We paid rent, bought groceries, just got by. You didn't ask. We didn't think we had to, Sarah snapped. You've been paying for stuff for years. What's the difference if it comes from you or through you? I grabbed my bag slowly. No one moved. No one apologized. No one seemed surprised. You're leaving already? Mom asked. Yep, I said, zipping up my coat. But don't worry, I'll be in touch. Don't be like that. Sarah rolled her eyes. We needed it more than you. That's just facts. I reached for the door but stopped, turning back to them. Then you won't mind what's coming next. They laughed, but outside, things were already changing. You've always helped. That's what you're for, right? Hey, you okay? My cousin Jen caught up to me as I walked to my car, fists clenched. No, I muttered, yanking open the door. I heard what Sarah said. She said softly, that wasn't right. I didn't answer. If I did, I'd scream. This wasn't the first time. For years, I was the responsible one, the one with the steady job, the one who didn't need help, so, they saw me as the family's bank. It started small. Sarah forgot to pay her phone bill once, I covered it. Then Seth lost his job and needed a little something. I even offered to pay for their daughter's birthday gift, except I didn't. They just expected me to. And each time, they acted like I owed them. You're lucky, Mason, Mom would say, sweet but sharp. You don't have the struggles your sister does. God gave you ease so you could share it. Family means supporting each other, Dad would say. You wouldn't be here if it weren't for us. Translation, we gave you life, now give us your paycheck. I never asked for anything, not when I was laid off for 6 months, living on rice and eggs, not when I skipped vacations for 3 years to rebuild my savings, not even when I helped pay off Sarah and Seth's credit card debt 2 years ago. They never paid me back, they never even said thank you. You still coming to the family reunion? Sarah had asked last week. Yeah, I replied, should I bring anything? Her answer was quick. Just bring yourself, and your card. I thought she was joking, now I know she wasn't. 2 days after everything happened, Sarah called me. I didn't pick up. She called again, and again. Then Seth texted, just call her, man, she's freaking out. I finally picked up on the 5th try. Mason, she started, her voice shaky, we've got a problem. Oh, we do? Look, don't be like that, something happened. I stayed silent. The power company came today. We're behind on the bill, a lot behind, and they're threatening to shut it off if we don't pay by Monday. She paused. So we need your help. I laughed, bitterly. You drained my savings, and now you're asking for more? It wasn't just for us, she snapped. We used some of it to help Mom and Dad too. Remember Dad's car broke down last month? I wasn't told, because you always say no when it's not an emergency. Mason, she said flatly, This isn't just messed up, it's criminal. You're being dramatic. It's family, you didn't ask me. We didn't think you'd mind. You've always helped. That's what you're for, right? There it was. That's what you're for. That night, I couldn't sleep. I replayed every moment of the past 5 years. The favors, the small transfers, the way Mom always said, "You're the strong one," the way Sarah rolled her eyes if I hesitated. They never saw me as a brother, a son, a person, just a resource. 3 days later, Mom called. "We need to talk." She didn't ask how I was. She didn't ask about my job. She didn't even ask about the missing money. "We're planning a family dinner, just us. Come over tonight." My stomach dropped. "What's this really about?" "Mason," she said, her voice low, "you've caused a lot of tension." I caused tension? Still, I went. Part of me wanted answers. The other part wanted to see if they'd even pretend to be sorry. They didn't. When I walked in, Sarah was already there, arms crossed. Seth sat beside her, looking bored. Mom was in the kitchen. Dad flipped through the mail like nothing had happened. "So," Sarah started as I sat down, "are we going to act like adults or what?" "Depends," I said. "You ready to confess to felony theft?" She scoffed. "God, you're so extra. It wasn't theft. It was family money. You always help. We needed it." Seth nodded. "You can spare it, so why the drama?" "I didn't give permission." "You didn't say no either." "Because I didn't know details," Sarah muttered. I turned to Mom. "And you're just okay with this?" She looked away. "We all agreed. You've always been the one who could handle it. No one even thought to ask. We trusted you." Dad chimed in. "Trusted you to do what's right." I stood up. "And what's right? Letting you steal from me while smiling to my face?" "Stop saying steal," Sarah shouted. "It was for the family." "Then you won't mind when the family deals with the consequences." "What does that mean?" Seth narrowed his eyes. I didn't answer. "Not yet. You don't get to cry now." When I stepped inside the house, everyone was already there. Mom was setting the table, clinking plates loudly. Dad sat on the couch, flipping channels like it was a normal night. Sarah stood by the window, arms folded. Seth lounged at the end of the table like he was about to watch TV, not face the consequences of draining someone's savings. "Well, look who showed up," Sarah said dryly. I dropped my bag near the door and sat down without saying anything. "Good," Seth grinned. "Maybe we can stop pretending you were robbed." "I was robbed." I sat down. Mom cleared her throat. "Mason, we know you're upset, but you have to understand, we were struggling. We didn't have any other options. Sarah and Seth, they were drowning." "And you," Dad added, "you've always been the stable one. We knew we could count on you." "You didn't ask," I said, voice cold. "You took. That's not family, that's theft." Sarah rolled her eyes. "You're being so dramatic. We didn't waste it. We used it where it mattered." "No." I reached into my bag, pulled out a printed spreadsheet, and slammed it on the table. $72 for makeup, $900 for takeout, $2,300 for your car loan. Seth didn't think I'd check. He leaned forward, face dark. "You went through our accounts?" "Oh, I did more than that." I opened my laptop. The screen lit up with a neat, color-coded breakdown of every charge and transfer. I filed a fraud report, and guess what? They got back to me. Sarah's eyes widened. "You didn't." "I did." "You called the police?" she shrieked. I turned to Mom. "Still think this is just a family thing?" "This is insane," Dad snapped. "You want to put your own sister in jail? You put yourself there." Then came the knock, 3 hard knocks on the door. Sarah went pale. Seth stood too fast. Mom gasped. Dad froze. "Open up," a voice shouted. "Financial Crimes Unit." Knock, knock, knock. Seth turned to me, voice low. "Mason, tell me you're not serious." I opened the door. 3 agents walked in, wearing jackets that said Financial Crimes Unit. One of them had a clipboard, another held a tablet, and the third was looking around the room. "Are you Mason Carver?" one of them asked. "Yes. Thank you for cooperating. We'll take it from here." Mom put her hand over her mouth. Sarah sat down in a chair, looking weak. Seth just stood there, shocked. One of the agents turned to them. "You're listed as people of interest in an open case involving financial fraud and identity theft." "Identity theft?" Mom gasped. "He's our son." The agent didn't blink. "Being family doesn't make illegal actions okay, ma'am." We didn't steal anything, Sarah shouted. We had a right to it, he always helped us. He always. Just because you think you're entitled to someone's money doesn't make it yours, another agent said calmly. Please stay seated. I just stood there and watched. For the first time, they didn't talk over me, they didn't mock me or laugh. Mom turned to me, her voice shaky and full of tears. Mason, please, we didn't mean to hurt you, we were just desperate. You've always been the strong one, you're the only one we could count on. I looked her in the eyes. You don't get to cry now. She started sobbing. Sarah couldn't speak. Seth looked like he wanted to run but stayed still, staring at the agent. You want to talk about what family is? I said, stepping forward. It's trust, it's respect, it's asking, not assuming, not stealing, not laughing while you drain my bank account. They didn't say anything. I grabbed my bag from the floor and turned to the lead agent. I'll be outside. They didn't stop me. You're free now, Mason, don't go back. I left the house in silence. No one chased me, no one called my name. For once, there was no guilt, no drama, no Sarah yelling at me with her usual, how could you? Just the cold night air and the sound of tires crunching behind me as the agents took them away, one by one. I didn't stay to watch. That night, I drove with no plan, past closed coffee shops and lit up gas stations, my phone buzzing in the passenger seat. I didn't answer a single call. I didn't want to hear excuses dressed as apologies. By midnight, I parked outside my grandmother's old house. She'd passed away a few years ago, but I still had the key. She used to say, if they ever turn on you, Mason, come here, the door will always be open. And that night, it was. I slept for 11 hours straight, no texts, no guilt, no tension like when I stayed with my family. When I woke up, I made coffee in a chipped mug and stood by the window, watching the sun rise over the fence she used to garden behind. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. But the peace didn't last long. The first email came that afternoon, from Dad. This has gone too far, you've humiliated the whole family, what happened to loyalty? I didn't reply. Then Sarah texted. I hope you're happy, they're freezing my accounts, Seth's being investigated at work, you ruined our lives over a couple of payments. A couple? Try tens of thousands of dollars, try 5 years of silent sacrifice. Then came Mom, a voicemail, her voice was soft, cracking. You didn't have to do it this way, we could have handled it like a family. Mason, sweetheart, please, they're threatening charges, they said we might lose the house. I replayed that line, they might lose the house. And suddenly, I wasn't angry, I wasn't vengeful. I just didn't care. Because I had already lost a home years ago, when they decided I was worth more as a bank account than a son. 2 days passed, then a message popped up from someone I didn't expect. Seth. Brother, we weren't close, maybe said 5 words to each other at birthdays, but his text was simple. Just so you know, Sarah's trying to shift the blame on you, says you knew and approved the money transfers, there's a lawyer involved, watch your back. I almost laughed. Even now, even with everything falling apart, she was still trying to spin it. That night, I called my lawyer. Send everything, I said, we're not just pressing charges, I want a restraining order too. But not every message was hostile. A week later, I got a short email from Kelly, Seth's sister. I know we haven't spoken in years, but I just wanted to say you were right, about all of it, about how they treat you, about how toxic it's gotten. I used to think you were just cold, now I think you were brave. I stared at her message for a long time. No one in my family had ever called me brave. One morning, my phone rang from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to answer. Mason? The voice was small and rough. It was Sarah. I didn't say anything, she kept talking. Look, I know I messed up, I went too far, I didn't think it would go like this. Seth's been suspended, Mom won't stop crying, Dad won't even talk to me, and you. She paused. You always had the power to ruin everything, and you finally did. I stayed quiet for a moment, then I said flatly, I didn't ruin anything, I just stopped letting you walk all over me. Silence. Can you just stop it now? Drop the charges, please, I'll do anything, just make it stop. I almost felt bad, almost. But then I remembered what she said the night of the reunion. We needed it more than you. I smiled, bitterly. No, I said, you made this mess, now you have to live with it. And I hung up. That night, I cooked myself dinner in peace. I played my favorite album from college, sat on the porch with a cup of coffee and watched the world go by. And for the first time since I was a teenager, no one asked me for money, no one tried to make me feel guilty, no one treated me like I was only valuable if I was giving something. I wasn't their bank anymore. I was just me. And that was enough. I'm not your wallet, I'm not your backup, I'm done. It's strange how quiet peace is. No one tells you that. You think it will feel like fireworks, or loud music, or some big celebration. But for me, peace was the quiet of no one asking for money, no one calling me selfish, no one texting me with, "Since you're the only one doing well." Just silence. Beautiful, peaceful silence. 3 months have passed since I blew everything up. 3 months since the investigation started. 3 months since my family looked at me in shock as the agents walked through the door and reality hit them. They say you can't choose your family, maybe that's true. But you can choose how much of yourself you're willing to lose trying to make them happy. And I was done losing. The fallout came quickly. Sarah and Seth tried to play damage control. First, a lawyer emailed my attorney, offering to resolve the situation privately. No apology, no admission of guilt, just trying to clean up the mess. I told my lawyer to let it burn. A week later, Mom sent a 10-page letter. Her handwriting was neat but shaky in some parts. She wrote about how things got out of hand, how they never meant to hurt me, how she hoped I could see the bigger picture. "We just assumed you'd always be there," she wrote. "That's what good sons do." That line stuck with me. Because it said everything. Not "we were wrong." Not "you didn't deserve this." Just "you were supposed to stay quiet and keep giving." I didn't reply, I didn't call. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty about it. I moved, new apartment, new state, no surprise visits from relatives, no more unexpected drop-ins from Sarah. I even changed my number. At work, my boss noticed how much more focused I was and offered me a promotion. I took it. It's funny how much better you do at work when you're not secretly dealing with your sister's car payments and your mom's overdue bills on the side. I sleep better now, I eat better, I breathe easier. Because I'm no longer carrying 4 people who refuse to say thank you. Then one morning, a letter came. No return address. Inside, a check for $1,200. And a handwritten note. I left him. "You were right, I was scared, but watching what you did gave me the courage to leave too. This is for everything you paid for, Ellie, the tablet, the rent, the clothes. I know Seth never thanked you, but I am. Thank you for showing me the way. Kelly." I read it twice, then I cried, not out of sadness or pain, but because, for the first time, someone in that family saw me, not as a bank, not as the one to blame, but as a person. People sometimes ask me, "Do you regret it?" And the answer is simple, no. I regret waiting so long. I regret all the sleepless nights, all the vacations I had to cancel, all the tight budgets while they ate out, shopped, and posted about family vibes on Instagram. I regret making myself small so they could feel big. I regret staying silent when I should have said, "You're crossing the line." But do I regret standing up for myself and burning it all down? Never. My therapist once asked, "Why did it take so long for you to say no?" I told her, "Because I thought saying no meant I didn't love them." She nodded and said, "Saying no is how you teach people to love you back." I've never forgotten that. A few days ago, I ran into someone from high school. She said, "Hey, I saw what happened with your family. That's wild." I expected judgment or pity, but instead, she smiled and said, "Good for you, most people never get out." I thanked her, then walked away, feeling a little prouder. Sarah and Seth are still under investigation. Last I heard, Seth lost his job, Sarah's bank account is frozen, Mom's trying to save the house, and Dad's blaming others for the family falling apart. They still don't get it. I didn't break anything, I just stopped pretending it was still intact. Sometimes, I get flashbacks of that night, the table, Sarah laughing while I checked my account, Seth grinning like it was a joke, Mom brushing it off. "You don't need that money," she said. And now they know the truth. That money wasn't just money, it was my life, my time, my health, my boundaries, and they crossed them for years like it didn't matter. Now they pay the price. I don't celebrate their downfall, but I celebrate myself, for surviving it, for walking away, for not going back, even when the silence felt lonely, even when guilt whispered in my ear like it used to. Because that silence, it's freedom. So if you're reading this, and And you've been the strong one, the responsible one, the good son or daughter who's expected to pay and never say anything. Let me tell you what I wish someone told me. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. You're allowed to stop. You're allowed to walk away. And when you do, you don't lose a family, you find yourself.
I knew something was off the moment Aston's secretary called to reschedule our meeting for the third time. Not a cancellation, a brief postponement that pushed our 10 a.m. slot to 4:30 p.m. when the office would be nearly empty. Still, I straightened my blazer and practiced my smile in the elevator's reflective doors. This promotion was 5 years in the making. The 52nd floor always gave me a rush. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing Manhattan's skyline, that rarefied air of success. I'd clawed my way up from assistant to senior manager, surviving 2 restructures and countless late nights. Today was supposed to be my coronation as director of operations. "Natasha, come in, come in." Aston's voice carried that practiced warmth he reserved for clients and board members. He gestured to the chair across from his desk, rather than the couch where we usually had our one-on-ones. First red flag. "Sorry about the scheduling chaos. Merger discussions are eating up my calendar." He loosened his tie slightly. "Drink? I'm having one." "I'm good, thanks." I needed clarity, not scotch. "Suit yourself." He poured 2 fingers anyway, ice clinking against crystal. "So, big day." My heart quickened. "I appreciate you making time. The team's quarterly results exceeded projections by 17%, and the Singapore expansion is ahead of schedule." "About that." Aston swirled his drink, not meeting my eyes. "The board and I have been discussing the director position extensively." I leaned forward. "I've prepared a transition plan. I can hit the ground running Monday." "Your dedication is precisely why this is difficult." He finally looked at me. "We're bringing in someone from outside." The words didn't register at first. "I'm sorry?" "Marcus Kelly, from Brightline. He starts next month." My mouth went dry. "Brightline? They're half our size, and their operations are. What they lack in scale, they make up for in innovation." Aston's smile didn't reach his eyes. "The board wants fresh perspective. 5 years. 5 years of missed birthdays, canceled vacations, and 3 a.m. crisis calls. I restructured our entire supply chain. I delivered 20% cost reduction while improving delivery times. And that's why we value you exactly where you are." He leaned back. "You're exceptional at execution, Natasha, but director level requires a different skill set." "Different how?" My voice had gone dangerously quiet. "Strategic vision, leadership presence." He gestured vaguely. "Marcus brings a certain gravitas to the role." Gravitas. The coded language wasn't lost on me. Marcus Kelly was 42, former college athlete, Wharton MBA. I was 32, state school, worked through college waiting tables. "I see." I didn't. "And my compensation adjustment?" "We're prepared to offer a 10% increase, plus stock options. Half what the director role would pay." "That's generous." "You're disappointed." He sighed like this was harder for him than me. "Look, you're valuable to us, but sometimes women in this industry need to adjust expectations." My skin went hot, then cold. "Excuse me?" "I'm being straight with you because I respect you." He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "The executive floor has a certain dynamic. The board has concerns about how you'd handle that pressure." "I've been handling pressure since I started here." "Different kind of pressure." He smiled in a way that made my stomach turn. "Look, you're smart, capable, gorgeous, obviously, but director meetings get heated, decisions get personal. Men at that level play rough." I stared at him, processing what he was really saying. "I'm doing you a favor." He finished his scotch. "The board questioned if you have the temperament. I convinced them to keep you on with a raise." "Because I'm too emotional?" The words tasted bitter. Because you're too valuable where you are. He checked his watch. Think of it as a stepping stone. Give it another year or two. Another year or two. On top of the 5 I'd already given. And if Marcus fails? He won't. Aston stood, signaling our meeting was over. He comes highly recommended. By whom, I wanted to ask. Instead, I stood, legs wooden. Thank you for your candor. That's what I appreciate about you, Natasha. You take feedback well. He walked me to the door, hand hovering near the small of my back without quite touching it. Most women would get emotional. I stopped at the threshold. Most people would when their career hits a ceiling for reasons unrelated to performance. His smile tightened. This isn't personal, isn't it? I met his gaze directly. What exactly did you tell the board about my temperament, Aston? Nothing that isn't obvious. His voice dropped. You're ambitious. Sometimes that comes across as aggressive in women. I nodded slowly, reaching into my pocket. My fingers closed around my phone. One more question. Did Marcus negotiate his compensation package? Of course, that's what leaders do. Interesting. I slid my thumb across my phone screen, stopping the recording I'd started the moment his secretary had called. 47 minutes of crystal clear audio. Have a good weekend. The flash of uncertainty in his eyes was almost worth the promotion I'd never get. Almost. I sat in the corner booth of Café Lucerne, my usual Friday spot, but nothing felt usual anymore. The recording played through my earbuds for the 4th time, each replay making my coffee grow colder and my anger burn hotter. Sometimes women in this industry need to adjust expectations. My finger jabbed the pause button. A couple at the next table glanced over, probably noticing my white-knuckle grip on my phone. I forced my hand to relax and took a sip of lukewarm coffee. My phone buzzed with a text from Jude. How'd the big meeting go? Champagne tonight? I typed back. Rain check. We'll call tomorrow. I couldn't face my brother's inevitable disappointment on my behalf, or worse, his practical advice about playing the long game. Jude had always been the voice of reason, the one who'd talk me down from professional ledges. But this wasn't about impatience or entitlement. This was about watching a less qualified man walk into the role I'd shaped. More coffee? The waitress appeared with a pot. Please. I removed my earbuds. And maybe something stronger if you've got it. She smiled sympathetically. Bad day? Bad career trajectory. Been there. She refilled my cup. We don't have a liquor license, but the bakery next door makes rum cake that'll knock you sideways. I laughed despite myself. I'll stick with caffeine for now. As she walked away, my phone lit up with an email notification. Zuriel from Legal. Subject line, got a minute? Zuriel and I weren't close, but we'd worked together on contract negotiations. He was quiet, methodical, and kept to himself. I opened the message. Natasha, heard about the director decision. Unfair doesn't begin to cover it. If you have time, there's something you should know. Z. I stared at the screen, curiosity temporarily displacing anger. I typed back, I'm at Café Lucerne now if you're free. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, 15 minutes. While waiting, I scrolled through LinkedIn, masochistically searching for Marcus Kelly. His profile was exactly what I expected. Professional headshot with perfect teeth. Harvard undergrad before Wharton. Recommendations from industry heavyweights. Nothing in his experience suggested he could handle our operations complexity, but everything about him screamed executive material. Is this seat taken? I looked up to find Zuriel standing there, leather messenger bag slung across his chest, expression unreadable behind wire-rimmed glasses. All yours. I gestured to the empty bench across from me. He slid in, ordered black coffee when the waitress returned, then leaned forward. I shouldn't be telling you this. That's a promising start. I mean it, Natasha. This conversation never happened. I nodded, suddenly alert. Understood. He glanced around before continuing. Marcus isn't the first external hire for that position. There was another candidate 2 months ago, Eliza Winters from Meridian Group. What happened? She accepted, then withdrew a week later. Cited personal reasons. His fingers made air quotes. And 3 days before she withdrew, she had a private dinner with Aston and Charlotte from HR. My stomach tightened. Charlotte had been with the company forever, a fixture in human resources who prided herself on managing executive transitions. How do you know this? I handle the executive expense accounts. Zuriel's voice dropped further. The dinner was at Aston's club, $500 bottle of wine, listed as candidate recruitment. That doesn't prove anything, I said, though my instincts were screaming otherwise. No, but this might. He slid his phone across the table, opened to an email thread. Charlotte accidentally copied me on this exchange with Aston after Eliza withdrew. I scanned the messages, my heart pounding harder with each line. Charlotte. Situation handled as discussed. Candidate cited family concerns. Aston. Expensive lesson. Next time we vet for flexibility earlier. Charlotte. Already adjusting the profile. We'll focus on candidates who understand our culture. Aston. Good. The board doesn't need to know details. What the hell does flexibility mean? I whispered. Zuriel reclaimed his phone. I have my theories. Share them. Eliza has 2 kids. Marcus has none. Eliza asked about work-life balance in her final interview. Marcus apparently told Aston he lives for the job. The coffee turned sour in my stomach. That's discrimination. It's unprovable discrimination, Zuriel corrected. And there's more. You're not the only internal candidate who's been passed over. Diane in marketing, Amara in finance. All women, I finished. All women who pushed back on something. Diane questioned the budget cuts to her department. Amara flagged accounting irregularities. I sat back, processing. Why are you telling me this? Zuriel's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. Because I've watched you rebuild this company's operations from the ground up while Aston takes credit. Because my sister faced the same glass ceiling at her firm until someone finally spoke up. And what exactly am I supposed to do with this information? That's up to you. He stood, leaving cash for his untouched coffee. But if you decide to do something, I might have more you could use. After he left, I played the recording one more time, hearing it differently now. This wasn't just about me. It was systematic. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Natasha, it's Zlata from Client Services. Charlotte asked me to schedule your adjustment meeting for Monday. Is something wrong with your job? Zlata, 28, brilliant, ambitious, just like I'd been. I stared at her message, something hardening inside me. I thought of all the nights I'd worked until midnight, the promotions I'd been passed over for, the comments about my aggressive communication style. I picked up my phone and called Milton Emerson at the Times. We'd met at an industry conference last year, exchanged cards. He'd said to call if I ever had a story. This wasn't just my story anymore. The sky darkened as I waited outside the coffee shop, heavy clouds gathering like my thoughts. Milton was 15 minutes late. I checked my phone again. No messages, no calls. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe I should just take the raise, keep my head down, play the game like everyone else. A black sedan pulled up and Milton emerged, raindrops already speckling his jacket. He spotted me and waved, hurrying over. Natasha, sorry I'm late. Editor meeting ran long. He extended his hand. Appreciate you reaching out. We ducked inside just as the rain began in earnest, claiming a corner table away from other patrons. Milton was older than I remembered, mid-50s with salt and pepper hair and the intense focus that marked career journalists. "So," he said after ordering coffee, "your message mentioned workplace discrimination. You have evidence?" I placed my phone on the table between us. "I recorded my boss explaining why I wasn't getting promoted." His eyebrows rose. "Is New York a one-party consent state for recordings?" "Yes, I checked." "Smart." He nodded approvingly. "Mind if I listen?" I pushed the phone toward him, watching his face as he put in earbuds. His expression remained neutral, but I caught the slight narrowing of his eyes at certain points, the almost imperceptible shake of his head. When he finished, he removed the earbuds carefully. "That's explicit. And it's not just me." I leaned forward. "I've learned there's a pattern." Other women passed over. An external female candidate who mysteriously withdrew. "Can you prove the pattern?" "I have a source in legal. He has documentation." Milton's eyes sharpened. Would this source go on record? The question pulled me up short. Would Zuriel risk his job? Would I be asking him to? "I don't know," I admitted, "but there must be others who've experienced the same thing." "Finding them is the challenge." Milton tapped his fingers on the table. "HR departments are excellent at making these issues disappear one by one. Settlements with NDAs, quiet exits, gaslighting. So, what are you saying? There's no story?" "I'm saying we need more. Your recording is compelling, but it's one incident. Corporate PR will spin it as a misunderstanding, a disgruntled employee." My stomach sank. So I just accept it? Let them keep doing this? "No." Milton's voice hardened. "We build a stronger case, find others willing to speak, even anonymously, get documentation of the pattern. And if I can do that, then we have a story that could change things, not just at your company, but potentially across the industry." He paused. "But Natasha, you need to understand what you're risking. Once this goes public, your career there is over." "It's already over," I said quietly. "They've made that clear." Milton studied me for a moment. "There's something else you should consider. These stories get ugly. The company will dig into your past, look for anything to discredit you. Are you prepared for that?" The question hit harder than I expected. My mind flashed to the anxiety medication in my bathroom cabinet, the therapy sessions after my last breakup, the time I'd lost my temper in a meeting 2 years ago. "I'm not perfect," I said finally, "but I'm right about this. Being right isn't always enough." His tone was gentle but firm. "Think it through. Meanwhile, I'll make some discreet inquiries about your company's history." We parted with a plan to reconnect in 3 days. As I stepped outside, the rain had intensified, drumming against the awning. I hadn't brought an umbrella. "Need a ride?" Milton offered, car service app already open on his phone. "I'm good. I live close." I zipped my jacket. "Thanks for meeting me." "Natasha," he hesitated. "Whatever you decide, document everything from now on. They'll be watching you." His words followed me through the rain, a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. My apartment felt emptier than usual that night. I paced the living room, phone in hand, debating whether to call Jude. My brother had always been my sounding board, but he was also pragmatic to a fault. He'd tell me to focus on finding another job, not fighting a battle I couldn't win. The knock at my door startled me. I wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, I saw Zuriel, looking uncharacteristically disheveled. "Sorry to show up unannounced," he said when I opened the door, "but we need to talk." I let him in, noting the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes darted around my apartment. "What's wrong?" "Charlotte called me into her office today." He removed his glasses, cleaning them nervously. Asked if I'd been in contact with you. My pulse quickened. What did you say? That we occasionally work together on contracts. Nothing more. He replaced his glasses. Natasha, they're already suspicious. Someone saw us at the cafe. That doesn't prove anything. It doesn't have to. They're watching the email servers, monitoring communications. He lowered his voice despite us being alone. I think they know about the recording. How could they possibly? Aston's assistant. She was at her desk when you left his office. Maybe she noticed something. I sank onto my couch. So what now? Now you need to be extremely careful. Zuriel sat beside me. And you need to know something else. I can't be your source anymore. What? Why? Because I have 2 kids and a mortgage. His voice cracked slightly. And because Charlotte mentioned budget cuts in legal during our conversation. It wasn't subtle. The weight of what I was up against suddenly felt crushing. They're threatening you. Not explicitly. They never do. He ran a hand through his hair. I'm sorry. I want to help, but I understand. And I did, even as disappointment flooded me. Family comes first. We sat in silence for a moment, rain pattering against the windows. There is one thing, he said finally, reaching into his bag. He pulled out a USB drive. Everything I have, email threads, expense reports, exit interviews that never made it to file. I'm not your source, but maybe this can help you find others who might be willing to speak. I stared at the small device, understanding its significance. Zuriel, if they find out, they won't, not if you're careful. He stood to leave. Just promise me something. What? Make it count. After he left, I held the USB drive like it was made of glass. The rain outside had transformed into a proper storm, thunder rolling across the city. I plugged the drive into my laptop and began to read. By midnight, I knew exactly what I was fighting, and who else might help me fight it. Monday morning arrived with that peculiar clarity that follows a weekend of little sleep and intense focus. I'd spent hours combing through Zuriel's files, connecting dots, making lists of names, women who'd left the company after being passed over, employees who'd filed complaints that mysteriously disappeared. The elevator dinged at the 38th floor. I stepped out, coffee in hand, expression carefully neutral. Act normal. Don't give them anything. Natasha! Zlata waved from her desk, bright-eyed despite the early hour. I've been trying to reach you all weekend. Sorry, I was unplugged. I smiled, hoping it looked genuine. What's up? She lowered her voice. Charlotte rescheduled your meeting for this morning, 9:30. She said it's important. My stomach tightened. Thanks for the heads up. Is everything okay? Genuine concern filled her eyes. People are talking about restructuring, and your name keeps coming up. I hesitated, studying her. Zlata had joined the company just 18 months ago, brilliant and eager. She reminded me of myself before disillusionment set in, before I learned how the game was really played. Everything's fine, I lied. Just corporate politics. She didn't look convinced. If you need anything, I know, thanks. I squeezed her shoulder as I passed, guilt gnawing at me. If I went forward with this, the fallout wouldn't just affect me. At my desk, I found an email from Charlotte confirming our meeting. The subject line read, Performance Discussion, Confidential, classic HR setup for a warning or termination. They were moving faster than I'd anticipated. I had just enough time to forward several key documents from Zuriel's files to my personal email before heading to Charlotte's office. Insurance, in case today went sideways. Charlotte's assistant waved me in without looking up. Inside, I found not just Charlotte but Aston as well, both seated at her small conference table. My pulse quickened. Natasha? Charlotte smiled warmly, too warmly. Thanks for making time. Please sit. I took the chair facing both of them, back to the door, a deliberate power move on their part. We wanted to check in after Friday's discussion, Aston began, all concerned professionalism. I sensed you were disappointed. That's one word for it. Charlotte leaned forward. We understand career setbacks can be difficult, but we see this as an opportunity for growth, not a limitation. Growth. I kept my voice even. Into what, exactly? We've been discussing your future here, Charlotte continued, and we have a proposal that might interest you. Aston slid a folder across the table. A lateral move to our Singapore office, leading the expansion you've been working on. I didn't touch the folder. Singapore. It's an exciting opportunity, Charlotte enthused. Same compensation package we discussed Friday, plus relocation benefits. When would this start? I asked, already knowing the answer. Ideally next month. Aston smiled. We need someone who understands the operations intimately. Someone they could ship 6,000 miles away. Someone who wouldn't be around to make noise when Marcus took over the role I'd built. I'm flattered, I said carefully, but my life is here, my family. Of course we understand that. Charlotte's voice oozed sympathy. Take the weekend to think it over, but we will need an answer by Friday. And if I decline? A brief silence. Then we'll need to reevaluate your current role, Aston said finally. With the new leadership coming in, there may be redundancies. There it was. Accept exile or face elimination. I see. I stood, leaving the folder untouched. I'll consider it. As I reached the door, Charlotte called after me. Oh, Natasha? I almost forgot. The company is updating our confidentiality policies. Legal will be sending around new agreements for everyone to sign. I turned back, meeting her gaze. Everyone? Senior management first. Her smile never reached her eyes. By end of day, please. Message received. They're trying to bury you, Jude said that evening, pacing my living room. I'd finally called him, needing my brother's perspective even if I didn't follow his advice. Or ship me off to Singapore. I poured more wine into both our glasses. Same difference. It's constructive dismissal, Nat. They're hoping you'll quit so they don't have to fire you and risk a lawsuit. I know what they're doing. I took a long sip. The question is what I'm going to do. Jude stopped pacing. You're not seriously considering fighting this? These people play dirty. So I've discovered. I opened my laptop, showing him the files. Look at this. 5 women in 3 years, all pushed out after raising concerns. Settlements with NDAs. Aston's expenses showing business dinners with female employees half his age. Jude scanned the screen, expression darkening. Where did you get this? Does it matter? It matters if it was obtained illegally. His lawyer instincts kicked in. Nat, if you got this through unauthorized access, I didn't steal anything, I snapped. It was given to me by someone concerned about the pattern. Someone who could lose their job. Someone who already backed out. I closed the laptop. But there are others, Jude. Women who left, who might talk if approached carefully. He sat beside me, concern etched on his face. And you're going to be the one to approach them? Put yourself at the center of this? Someone has to. Why you? His voice softened. Why not find another job, one worthy of your talents, and leave this place in your rear view? The question hung between us. Why was I doing this? For justice, revenge, to prove something? Because next time it'll be Zlata, I said finally, or some other woman who works twice as hard, only to hit the same wall. Nothing changes if we all just walk away. Jude studied me for a long moment. You know I'll support you whatever you decide, but promise me you'll be careful. These corporate types, they protect their own. I know. I squeezed his hand. That's why I need to talk to someone who wasn't protected. After Jude left, I opened my laptop again, staring at a name that had appeared repeatedly in the files. Diana Vega, former marketing director, left abruptly last year after filing a complaint against Aston. Her settlement included an NDA, but according to the files, she'd initially refused to sign. I found her on LinkedIn, currently freelancing, based in Brooklyn. My finger hovered over the message button. Once I reached out, there would be no turning back. Charlotte's warning about the confidentiality agreement echoed in my mind. They were already moving to silence me. I clicked connect and began typing. Diana, you don't know me, but we have something in common. I think it's time someone spoke up. Send. Diana chose a crowded brunch spot in Williamsburg, the kind of place where conversations disappear into the ambient noise. I spotted her immediately. Sharp bob, oversized sunglasses, shoulders tense with vigilance. She didn't remove the glasses even after sliding into the booth across from me. I almost didn't come, she said without preamble. Messaging me was risky. For both of us, I acknowledged. Thank you for meeting anyway. She studied me from behind dark lenses. Your message said you work at Pinnacle. Marketing? Operations. Senior manager. For now. A knowing smile flickered across her face. Let me guess. You were promised something they didn't deliver. Director position, given to an external male candidate instead. Diana removed her sunglasses finally, revealing tired eyes. Tale as old as time. What makes your situation different from the dozen other women they've done this to? I recorded Aston explaining why I wasn't director material. I leaned forward, and I have documentation of a pattern. Her posture changed subtly. What kind of documentation? Email threads, HR complaints that disappeared, settlement details. Including mine? Her voice sharpened. Yes? She glanced around the restaurant, then back at me. You realize I signed an NDA. I know. Then why am I here, Natasha? I took a deep breath. Because before you signed, you fought. Harder than anyone else, according to the files. You wanted something beyond money. Diana's laugh held no humor. I wanted accountability, systemic change. She stirred her untouched coffee. Instead, I got a check and a legally binding promise to shut up forever. What if you weren't alone this time? I pulled out my phone, showing her a list. 3 other women are willing to talk, NDA or not. With your help, we could find more. And do what exactly? Class action? Media exposure? She shook her head. They'll bury you in legal fees before you ever see a courtroom. I have a journalist interested, Milton Emerson from the Times. That caught her attention. Emerson? He broke the Westlake Industries story last year. Yes, but he needs more sources willing to go on record. Diana was quiet for a long moment. You know what happens to whistleblowers, right? Best case, you're blacklisted in the industry. Worst case, they destroy your reputation completely. I know the risks. Do you? She leaned forward. When I filed my complaint, they started rumors that I was unstable, that I'd made advances toward Aston and turned vindictive when rejected. Former colleagues, friends, stopped returning my calls. My stomach tightened. I'm sorry that happened to you. It wasn't just me. Every woman who's challenged them has been systematically discredited. Her eyes held mine. Are you prepared for that? The question hung between us. Was I? I thought about Zlata's admiring glances, my professional reputation built over years, Jude's concern. I have to be, I said finally, because it won't stop with me. Diana studied me for a long moment. You remind me of myself a year ago, before they broke me. You don't seem broken to me, a ghost of a smile. Good act, isn't it? She sighed. I can't go on record. My NDA is ironclad, and I've rebuilt my life. But, I can connect you with others, women who might be willing to speak. She pulled out her phone. And I can tell you things that won't appear in any documentation. For the next hour, Diana painted a picture more disturbing than anything in Zuriel's files. A boys' club mentality that extended beyond Aston to the entire executive floor. Retreats where female employees were expected to socialize after hours. Performance reviews that hinged on cultural fit rather than results. The Singapore offer, I said suddenly, did they try that with you too? Diana's expression confirmed it before she spoke. Hong Kong in my case, same playbook, export the problem. As we parted, she gripped my arm. Whatever you do, don't sign anything they put in front of you. No new confidentiality agreements, no amended contracts. Nothing. I won't. And Natasha? Her voice softened. Watch your back, literally. Don't be alone with any of them. I was still processing Diana's warnings when I returned to the office that afternoon. The floor was unusually quiet for a Tuesday. As I approached my desk, Zlata hurried over, eyes wide. Where have you been? She whispered. Charlotte's been looking for you everywhere. I had a meeting off-site. What's going on? I don't know exactly, but... She glanced around nervously. Marcus was here earlier, with IT. They were at your desk. My blood went cold. My computer? They said something about a security audit. She bit her lip. Natasha, I heard them mention your email activity. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Meeting room C now. Z. Zuriel. My pulse quickened. I need to go, I told Zlata. If anyone asks, you're in the quarterly planning session. I know. She squeezed my hand. Be careful. Meeting room C was tucked away in a rarely used corner of the floor. Zuriel was already inside, pacing. They know, he said the moment I closed the door. It did a sweep of all senior management communications this morning. They found your forwards to your personal email. How bad? Bad enough. They're building a case for corporate espionage. His voice shook slightly. Aston's called an emergency executive meeting for 4 o'clock. To discuss me? To discuss your termination. He ran a hand through his hair. And possible legal action. The room seemed to tilt slightly. They're going to sue me? They're going to try to scare you into silence. Zuriel checked his watch. You have 2 hours before that meeting ends. Get whatever you need from your desk and go. Don't come back tomorrow. But that's Natasha. His eyes met mine. This isn't a negotiation anymore. They're coming for you. Today. As if on cue, my phone lit up with an email from Charlotte. Please see me immediately regarding a serious policy violation. Go, Zuriel urged. Now. I left through the service elevator, heart pounding against my ribs. In the lobby, I texted Milton. They found out. Moving forward now. How soon can we meet? His response came seconds later. My office, 1 hour. The battle lines were drawn. There would be no going back. Rain pounded the windows of Milton's office, the sky darkening prematurely despite it being only 4 in the afternoon. I sat across from him, watching as he reviewed the materials I'd brought, the recording, Zuriel's files, notes from my conversation with Diana. This is substantial, he said finally, looking up. More than I expected. Is it enough? My voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. For a preliminary story, yes. He leaned back in his chair. But you understand what happens once we publish? There's no middle ground here. They'll come at you with everything they have. They already are. I showed him the texts I'd received in the past hour. First from Charlotte demanding my immediate return, then from Aston himself, his tone shifting from professional concern to thinly veiled threats. Milton read them silently. Have you spoken with an attorney? My brother's a lawyer. He's drawing up a preemptive response. I rubbed my temples, fighting a growing headache. But legally, I'm vulnerable. I did forward company documents to my personal email, which complicates things. Milton tapped his pen against his desk. They'll claim you stole proprietary information. Try to make the story about your actions rather than theirs. So what do? We move quickly. He checked his watch. I can have a draft ready by morning. We'll need statements from your other sources tonight. My phone buzzed again. Jude. Where are you? Call me ASAP. I need to take this, I told Milton, stepping into the hallway. Jude answered on the first ring. Nat, listen carefully. Aston's legal team just contacted my firm. They're filing for an emergency injunction. My stomach dropped. Against what? Against you disclosing any company information to anyone, including the press. His voice was tight with tension. They're claiming breach of contract, theft of trade secrets, and defamation. That's ridiculous. This isn't about trade secrets. It doesn't matter. It's a scare tactic, but an effective one. If a judge grants the injunction, you'll be legally barred from speaking to Milton or anyone else about Pinnacle. How soon? They're requesting an emergency hearing tomorrow morning. Jude paused. Nat, they're serious. The complaint includes a demand for damages, 7 figures. The hallway seemed to narrow around me. 7 figures, more money than I'd ever see in my lifetime. What do I do? Come to my office, now. We need to prepare a response. I ended the call and leaned against the wall, suddenly lightheaded. This was moving faster than I'd anticipated, spiraling beyond my control. When I returned to Milton's office, he was already on the phone, his expression grave. He held up a finger, finished his conversation, then turned to me. That was my editor. His voice was carefully neutral. Pinnacle's PR team just reached out. They're claiming you're under investigation for corporate espionage and attempting to blackmail executives. That's absurd. It's predictable. Milton's eyes were sympathetic but direct. They're trying to discredit you before the story breaks. Can they stop the story? Not if we have corroboration from multiple sources. He hesitated, but the legal threats complicate things. My editor wants to be certain we're on solid ground. My phone buzzed yet again. Unknown number. Natasha? It's Zlata. They just escorted me out of the building. They're saying I helped you access confidential files. My blood went cold. What? That's not true. I know that. Her voice trembled. But security went through my computer, and apparently I accessed HR records last month for that project Charlotte assigned me. They're saying I had no authorization. Zlata, I'm so sorry. They made me sign something before I left. I didn't know what else to do. She was crying now. I can't lose this job, Natasha. My visa? I understand. It's okay. But it wasn't. Nothing about this was okay. After calming Zlata as best I could, I turned back to Milton, my resolve wavering for the first time. They're going after people close to me, I said quietly, a junior employee who did nothing wrong. Milton nodded grimly. Standard intimidation tactic. They're showing you the collateral damage you're causing. It's working? I sank into a chair. I never wanted anyone else hurt by this. That's what they're counting on. He leaned forward. This is the moment most people back down. Take the settlement they'll inevitably offer. Sign the NDA. And if I don't, then we push forward. But I need you certain, Natasha. Once we publish, there's no going back. My phone lit up again. Aston, this has gone far enough. Meet me tonight, 8 p.m., the Gable. Just you and me. We can resolve this like professionals. I stared at the message, something cold and clear crystallizing inside me. He wants to meet, I told Milton, alone. That's a trap. Of course it is. I stood, decision made. but it's also an opportunity. For what? To get him on record one more time. I held up my phone. If he's willing to meet, he's willing to talk. And if he's willing to talk, he might say something we can use. Milton nodded slowly. But it's risky. He'll be prepared this time. So will I. I texted Jude. Meeting Aston at 8. Need you to be nearby. Then to Aston. I'll be there. The rain intensified outside, sheets of water cascading down the windows. A storm was coming, in more ways than one. You don't have to do this, Milton said quietly. Yes, I do. I gathered my things, because if I don't stand my ground now, I never will. As I left his office, my phone buzzed with a final message from Zoriel. Whatever happens next, remember why you started this. It was never just about you. He was right. It wasn't just about me. It was about Zlata, Diana, and every woman who would come after us. The thought steadied me as I stepped into the rain, heading toward a confrontation that would change everything. The gable occupied the top floor of a midtown high-rise, all dark wood and amber lighting, the kind of place where deals were sealed with handshakes and knowing glances. I arrived 20 minutes early, my hair still damp from the rain, heart hammering against my ribs. Ms. Lynch, the host greeted me by name. Mr. George is already here. Private room in the back. Of course he was early, controlling the environment, setting the stage. I need a moment. I gestured toward the restroom. Inside, I gripped the marble counter, studying my reflection. The woman staring back looked composed, but I could see the tension in her jaw, the wariness in her eyes. I touched the small recording device Jude had given me, securely clipped inside my jacket pocket, then checked my phone one last time. Jude. In the bar downstairs. Text if you need me. Milton. Remember, you're not there to defend yourself. You're there to let him reveal himself. I took a deep breath and walked out. The private dining room was separated from the main restaurant by frosted glass doors. Aston stood as I entered, his smile practiced and confident. No sign of the man who'd threatened legal action hours earlier. Natasha, thank you for coming. He gestured to the chair across from him. A bottle of expensive scotch sat between two glasses on the table. Drink? No, thank you. I remained standing. Let's skip the pleasantries, Aston. Why am I here? Please sit. His tone hardened slightly. We have matters to discuss. I sat, keeping my back straight, hands visible on the table. Such as the lawsuit your lawyers are preparing? A precautionary measure. He poured himself 2 fingers of scotch. One that can be withdrawn if we reach an understanding tonight. What kind of understanding? He took a measured sip before answering. You've put yourself in a difficult position, Natasha, removing confidential documents, making baseless accusations. They're not baseless. From where I sit, they look like the actions of a disgruntled employee who didn't get her way. His smile never reached his eyes, but I understand disappointment can cloud judgment. The condescension in his voice made my skin crawl, but I kept my expression neutral. Is that why you asked me here? To explain my clouded judgment? I asked you here because, despite everything, I still see your potential. He leaned forward. This situation can still be salvaged. How? You return all company materials in your possession, sign an agreement acknowledging your actions and accepting certain restrictions moving forward. He made it sound reasonable, even generous. In exchange, we drop the legal action and provide a severance package, 6 months' salary, plus benefits, and an NDA. Standard procedure in these situations. These situations. I repeated the words slowly. You mean when women challenge your authority? His expression flickered. This isn't about gender, Natasha. It's about professional conduct. Is that what you told Diana And Eliza and the others? The mention of those names hit their mark. Aston's jaw tightened momentarily before he regained his composure. I won't discuss other employees, past or present. Of course not. That would acknowledge the pattern. He set his glass down with deliberate care. What exactly do you hope to accomplish here? Even if your journalist friend publishes something, it becomes your word against the company's, a company with considerably more resources and credibility. It won't be just my word. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. If you're referring to Zuriel, he's already recanted his statements, admitted to misinterpreting certain communications. My stomach dropped. You're lying. Am I? He pulled out his phone, scrolled briefly, then turned it toward me. An email from Zuriel to HR, apologizing for sharing incomplete information that may have been misconstrued. The betrayal stung, even though I understood the pressure he must have been under. One source down, Aston continued. As for the others, Zlata's visa situation is precarious, isn't it? And I understand Diana's new freelance business is finally taking off. Would be a shame if potential clients heard she violated her NDA. The threat hung in the air between us. I thought of Zlata crying on the phone, Diana's warnings about what they'd done to her reputation. You really don't see it, do you? I said quietly. How you use power to silence people. I use power to protect what I've built. His voice hardened. Something you'd understand if you'd ever built anything of significance yourself. The words were calculated to wound, to remind me of my place. 5 days ago, they might have worked. I've built plenty, I said, meeting his gaze steadily, including a case against you that doesn't depend on any single person's testimony. Empty threats, Natasha. Not empty. I reached into my pocket, not for the recorder, but for my phone. I placed it on the table, screen up, showing the recording app running. And not threats. Aston stared at the phone, then at me, his expression darkening. You're recording this conversation? Just like I recorded our meeting on Friday. I leaned forward. New York is a one-party consent state, completely legal. Give me that phone. His voice was dangerously low. No. He reached across the table, but I was faster, sliding the phone back into my pocket. This meeting is over. He stood abruptly. Expect to hear from our attorneys first thing tomorrow. Before you go, I remained seated, voice steady despite my racing heart. You should know the Times has statements from 5 women detailing similar experiences with you and Pinnacle's leadership. The story runs tomorrow morning. You're bluffing. Check your email in an hour. Milton will reach out for comment as a professional courtesy. Something shifted in his expression, the first flicker of genuine uncertainty I'd seen. What do you want? He asked finally. What I've always wanted, the director position I earned, public acknowledgement of the pattern of discrimination, and no retaliation against anyone who spoke up. He laughed, a harsh sound in the quiet room. Impossible. Then I walk out that door, and tomorrow everyone knows exactly who you are. And who you are? His voice turned venomous. A vindictive, ambitious woman who couldn't handle rejection. I stood then, gathering my things with deliberate calm. That's where you're wrong, Aston. I handled rejection just fine. It's injustice I couldn't stomach. As I reached the door, he called after me. You'll never work in this industry again. You know that, right? I turned back one last time. Maybe not, but neither will you. The look on his face, rage mingled with the first real traces of fear, told me he finally believed me. Outside, the rain had stopped. The night air felt electric against my skin as I texted Milton. It's done. Run the story. Sleep never came. I sat at my kitchen table as night gradually yielded to dawn. my laptop open to the Times website, waiting. The apartment felt unnaturally quiet, as if the world itself were holding its breath. At 6:07 a.m., my phone rang. Milton. "It's live," he said without preamble, top of the digital front page. I refreshed the screen. There it was, systematic discrimination alleged at Pinnacle Corp. My name appeared in the second paragraph, alongside words like whistleblower and retaliation. "How are you feeling?" Milton asked. "I don't know yet." My voice sounded distant to my own ears. "Ask me tomorrow." After we hung up, I remained motionless, staring at the article. 5 women had gone on record, 3 anonymously, 2 with names. Diana had changed her mind at the last minute, deciding that silence had cost her enough already. The story detailed a pattern spanning years: passed over promotions, strategic relocations, retaliatory actions. My phone began buzzing with notifications. Text messages, emails, LinkedIn requests, journalists seeking comments, former colleagues expressing shock or support. I silenced it, needing space to process. The intercom buzzed. "Jude. You shouldn't be alone right now," he said when I let him in, setting down coffee and bagels I hadn't asked for, but suddenly desperately needed. "Have you seen it?" I asked. "Of course." He squeezed my shoulder. "You did it, Nat." "Did what, exactly?" I sank onto the couch. "Ended my career? Started a legal battle I can't afford?" "Told the truth." He sat beside me. "Everything else is just consequences." My phone rang again, Zuriel this time. I hesitated, then answered on speaker. "I'm sorry," he said immediately. "They threatened my kids, Natasha, my daughter's college acceptance." "I understand," and I did. "The email to HR? Written with their attorney watching over my shoulder." His voice was strained. "But I want you to know, I've resigned this morning, effective immediately." "Zuriel, you didn't have to." "Yes, I did." Something had shifted in his tone. Relief, perhaps. "I've already received 2 calls from firms wanting to discuss opportunities. Turns out having principles is marketable." After we hung up, Jude studied me. "You realize what's happening, right? The story's spreading. People are choosing sides." My phone confirmed it. The article was being shared across social media, comment sections filling with similar stories from other companies, other industries. "It's not about sides," I said finally. "It's about patterns. Once you see them, you can't unsee them." The day unfolded in a blur of communications. Charlotte sent a company-wide email announcing Aston's temporary leave of absence, pending an internal investigation. PR released a statement expressing shock at the allegations and commitment to a thorough review. Standard corporate damage control. By afternoon, I'd heard from 3 law firms offering to represent me pro bono against Pinnacle's inevitable lawsuit. 2 competing companies had left messages about potential opportunities. A women's professional organization wanted me to speak at their conference. "Your phone hasn't stopped," Jude observed as evening approached. "Maybe this won't be the career suicide you feared." Maybe not. But something still felt unresolved. "I need to go somewhere." "Want company?" I shook my head. "This one's solo." The Pinnacle building looked different in twilight, less imposing somehow. Security would have my access revoked by now, but I wasn't there to go inside. I stood across the street watching employees exit, wondering which ones had read the article, which ones were discussing it in hushed tones by the coffee machine. "I thought I might find you here." I turned to find Zlata beside me, her expression unreadable. "Zlata, I'm so sorry about what happened." "Don't be," she cut me off. "I quit this morning." "Your visa is being sponsored by Meridian Group." A small smile. "They called after the article went live. Apparently, they're creating a new diversity initiative and wanted someone with demonstrated ethical backbone. Relief flooded through me. That's wonderful. It is. She turned to face the building. But that's not why I'm here. Why are you here? Same reason as you, I think. She nodded toward the entrance where a familiar figure was emerging. Charlotte, looking considerably less composed than usual, flanked by two men carrying boxes of her belongings. Board emergency session this afternoon. Zlata explained. Charlotte's out. So is the head of legal. They're calling it leadership restructuring. We watched in silence as Charlotte climbed into a waiting car. It won't fix everything, I said quietly. No. Zlata's shoulder brushed against mine. But it's a start. As we stood there, my phone buzzed with an email. Board of Directors at Pinnacle, requesting a meeting tomorrow to discuss organizational improvements and my potential role in future leadership. I showed it to Zlata, who raised an eyebrow. Are you going? The question gave me pause. A week ago, I would have said yes immediately, desperate for validation, for the recognition I'd earned. Now, I don't know. I put the phone away. I have other meetings tomorrow. With who? Diana and the others. Something had crystallized inside me during these past days, a purpose clearer than any corporate title. We're discussing next steps. Next steps? This was never just about Pinnacle. I turned away from the building, no longer needing to watch its lights. It's about changing the patterns, everywhere. As we walked away, Zlata glanced back once. Aren't you worried about what happens next? The lawsuits? The backlash? Terrified. I smiled, surprising myself with how genuine it felt. But I'd rather be scared and moving forward than safe and standing still. The city stretched before us, full of buildings just like Pinnacle, full of stories just like mine. The thought no longer filled me with dread, but with a strange, fierce determination. They never expected us to compare notes, I said, more to myself than to Zlata. That was their first mistake. And their last, she added, falling into step beside me. The evening air felt different somehow, charged with possibility rather than threat. I'd lost something these past days, security perhaps, or illusions. But I'd found something too, something I hadn't even known I was looking for. My voice, and I wasn't done using it. I smoothed my hands over the silk dress, trying to calm the butterflies in my stomach. The rehearsal dinner was supposed to start in an hour, and everything was perfect. The fairy lights strung across the garden, the delicate peonies on every table, the champagne chilling in silver buckets. Tomorrow, I'd finally become Mrs. Josiah Ross. After 4 years together, our dream was about to come true. Melina? My soon-to-be sister-in-law's voice carried from the hallway. Do you have a minute? Come in, Autumn, I called, still fussing with my hair in the mirror. I could use another opinion on these earrings. The door opened, but Autumn didn't step inside. Her face was drawn, lacking its usual warmth. We need to talk, now. Something in her tone made my skin prickle. I turned away from the mirror, letting my hands drop to my sides. What's wrong? Not here. She glanced over her shoulder. Meet me in the garden, 5 minutes. Before I could respond, she was gone, leaving me standing alone with my reflection. The woman in the mirror looked uncertain now, her earlier glow dimming. I grabbed my wrap and headed downstairs, heels clicking against the wooden steps. The garden was eerily quiet, the fairy lights casting strange shadows. Autumn stood near the rose trellis, clutching a manila envelope. My chest tightened. What's going on? I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I tried to tell him not to do this today, but he insisted. She thrust the envelope toward me. He wanted you to have these before tomorrow. My fingers trembled as I opened it. The legal letterhead swam before my eyes, but certain phrases jumped out with brutal clarity. Petition for dissolution of marriage, irreconcilable differences, property division. I don't understand. The papers slipped from my grasp, scattering across the grass like dead leaves. We're getting married tomorrow. No. Autumn's voice cracked. You're not. Where is he? The world tilted sideways as understanding crashed over me. Where's Josiah? He's gone. He left this morning. Gone where? I demanded, but I already knew. The signs had been there, the late nights at work, the mysterious texts, the way he'd grown distant. I just hadn't wanted to see them. He's with Claire. Autumn wouldn't meet my eyes. They've been together for months. She's pregnant. Claire, his new assistant, 23 years old with perfect hair and an Instagram influencer smile. The one he'd assured me was just a colleague when I'd voiced concerns. You knew. The accusation tasted like acid. You knew and you didn't tell me. He's my brother, Melina. What was I supposed to do? Warn me. My voice echoed across the garden. Before I ordered the dress, booked the venue, sent the invitations, before I let myself believe in forever with someone who was already planning his escape. I wanted to, but nothing. I grabbed the envelope, crumpling it in my fist. You sat there through every dress fitting, every cake tasting, every stupid planning session. You helped me pick out china patterns while knowing he was building a life with someone else. Autumn reached for me, but I jerked away. Don't touch me. Don't you dare try to comfort me now. Please, just listen. To what? More lies? I laughed, and it sounded unhinged even to my own ears. God, I'm such an idiot. All those times you invited us over for dinner, insisted I join your book club, treated me like family. Was any of it real? Or were you just keeping me distracted while your brother made his exit strategy? It wasn't like that, she protested, but her face gave her away. 150 people are about to show up for my wedding, I said, my voice deadly calm. Who's gonna tell them? You? Your coward of a brother? Or should I just send a group text? Sorry, turns out the groom's been busy knocking up his secretary. Tears spilled down Autumn's cheeks. I'll handle it. I'll call everyone. How generous of you. I turned away, my legs somehow carrying me toward the house. Don't bother sending the gifts back. Consider them payment for services rendered. 4 years of my life, wasted on a lie everyone but me could see. Melina, wait. I didn't stop. I couldn't. Because if I stopped moving, I'd start feeling, and if I started feeling, I might never stop screaming. Behind me, the fairy lights flickered in the darkness, mocking the celebration that would never come. Tomorrow, instead of walking down the aisle, I'd be picking up the pieces of my shattered future. But first, I had a rehearsal dinner to cancel and a wedding dress to burn. And after that, Josiah Ross would learn exactly what happens when you mistake someone's kindness for weakness. The wedding dress hung in my closet like a ghost, taunting me. I hadn't slept, spending the night alternating between rage scrolling through 4 years of photos and fighting the urge to drive to Claire's apartment. Instead, I sat cross-legged on my bedroom floor at dawn, surrounded by the debris of my almost marriage. My phone buzzed again. Probably another concerned message from Thea. She'd been texting since midnight when I'd sent her a photo of the divorce papers with only 3 words. Wedding is off. I reached for the bottle of wine I'd opened hours ago, but my hand froze mid-motion. There, buried under a stack of cards, was the permission slip that had started everything. The innocent-looking document Josiah had asked me to sign 6 months ago, granting him access to my trust fund for wedding expenses. The memory hit like a punch to the gut. He'd been so casual about it, kissing my neck as I signed. Just a formality, baby. Makes things easier for the vendors. My fingers trembled as I opened my banking app. The trust fund balance glared back at me. 12,463. Last time I checked, it had been over $200,000. The scream built in my throat before I could stop it. I hurled my phone across the room, watching it crack against the wall. The sound of breaking glass was satisfying enough that I reached for the nearest photo frame. Melina? Thea's voice carried through the door, followed by the click of my spare key in the lock. I'm coming in, so please don't throw anything at me. She appeared in my doorway, taking in the chaos, the scattered photos, the empty wine bottle, my mascara-streaked face. Without a word, she stepped carefully through the mess and sat beside me. He took my money, I whispered. All of it. Thea's intake of breath was sharp. When? Last month, right after I signed over access. I laughed, the sound brittle. Probably needed it for the baby. Or maybe Claire has expensive taste in maternity wear. We're calling the police. No. I grabbed her arm as she reached for her phone. Not yet. He stole from you. And I'm going to make him pay. The clarity of the thought cut through my hangover haze. But not like that. Not with some messy legal battle where he gets to play victim and paint me as the bitter ex. Then how? I stood up, swaying slightly as I made my way to my laptop. Remember when Autumn added me to their family photo sharing account? The one she uses to back up everything from her phone? Thea's eyes widened. You still have access? She never revoked it. My fingers flew across the keyboard. And look what I found this morning while I couldn't sleep. The screen filled with messages, hundreds of them. Screenshots of conversations between Josiah and Autumn dating back months. Plans, warnings, strategies for keeping me distracted. Holy shit, Thea breathed, reading over my shoulder. She wasn't just covering for him. She was helping him plan everything. It gets better. I clicked through to a folder of photos. See this? The timestamp shows Josiah at Claire's apartment the same day he told me he was visiting his sick grandmother. And look who took the picture. Autumn, Thea said slowly. But why would she? Because she's always been jealous. The pieces had fallen into place during my sleepless night. She hated that Josiah found someone before she did. Hated that I got the perfect proposal, the perfect ring, the perfect life she thought she deserved. So she helped him destroy it. What are you going to do? I closed the laptop, turning to face my best friend. First, I'm going to get my money back. Then I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly who they really are. Not just Josiah and Claire, but sweet, supportive Autumn, too. Melina. Thea's voice held a warning. Don't do anything crazy. Crazy would be letting them get away with this. I stood up, suddenly energized. Crazy would be playing the heartbroken victim while they build their perfect little family with my money. And what's your plan? Revenge porn? Social media warfare? That's not you. The old me died yesterday. I walked to the closet and yanked out the wedding dress. This is what they expect me to do. Cry, drink, post sad quotes about betrayal. But I'm done being predictable. I grabbed my scissors and started cutting, the sound of shearing silk oddly satisfying. They want a show. I'll give them one. But first, I need you to help me with something. What? I held up my phone, displaying Autumn's backup folder. We're going to download everything, and then we're going to figure out exactly how deep this betrayal goes. The dress lay in ruins at my feet, white fabric scattered like surrender flags. But I wasn't surrendering. I was declaring war. Monday morning hit like a hangover, even though I'd been sober for 36 hours. The office buzzed with whispers as I walked to my desk, chin high, makeup perfect. Let them talk. I had work to do. Melina? Lionel appeared at my cubicle, coffee in hand. My mentor's face held none of its usual warmth. My office, now. I followed him down the hall, past curious eyes and not quite hidden phones. Someone had already updated the office gossip channel, no doubt. "Sit," he said, closing the door, "and explain why Josiah's lawyer called me this morning." My carefully constructed mask cracked. "What?" "He claims you're harassing Claire at work, says you created a fake Instagram account to post about their relationship." "I haven't—" I stopped, the pieces clicking together. "Show me." Lionel turned his monitor around. There it was, a fresh account filled with photos of Josiah and Claire, dated timestamps proving their affair. The caption under each one dripped with vengeful spite. "That's not me," I said quietly. "That's Autumn. Josiah's sister? Why would she—" "To discredit me." My laugh held no humor. "Make me look unhinged before I can tell my side." Classic gaslighting. Lionel studied me for a long moment. "There's more to this than a called-off wedding, isn't there?" I hesitated. Lionel had been my mentor for 3 years, the closest thing to a father figure I had since Dad died, but trust felt like a luxury I couldn't afford anymore. "He took my money," I finally said, "my trust fund, all of it." Lionel's expression darkened. "How?" "I signed it over, for the wedding." The admission burned. I was stupid. "No," his voice was sharp. "You were in love. There's a difference." He typed something into his computer. "When exactly did the transfer happen?" "Last month." "Why?" "Because I handle the corporate accounts, remember? Including the one Josiah used for client billing." More typing. "And I've noticed some irregularities lately." My heart stuttered. What kind of irregularities? The kind that might interest the FBI. He turned the screen toward me again. "Look at these transactions." Numbers filled the screen. Dates, amounts, account transfers. Most meant nothing to me until I saw it. A transfer to an offshore account, dated exactly 1 day after my trust fund withdrawal. "He's been embezzling," Lionel said softly, "using client funds to cover his tracks. Your money was probably meant to fill the latest hole before someone noticed." The room spun. "How long have you known?" "I started suspecting last week, planned to confront him today." Lionel's eyes met mine. "But he didn't show up for work, did he?" "No." My voice sounded distant. "He's gone, with Claire. And your money." Lionel's fingers drummed the desk. "Which means we have leverage." "We? You think I'm letting you handle this alone?" He smiled, but it wasn't his usual gentle expression. "I've got 20 years of forensic accounting experience and a serious problem with men who steal from women who trust them." Hope flickered, dangerous and bright. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we do this smart. Legal. Airtight." He pulled out a notepad. "Tell me everything. Start with Autumn's involvement." For the next hour, I laid it all out. The backup folder, the messages, the calculated betrayal. Lionel took notes, occasionally asking questions that revealed patterns I hadn't noticed. "One more thing," he said as I finished. "Did Josiah ever mention someone named Grayson? Grayson Mitchell?" "No. Why?" "Because he's been trying to reach you. He's a former client of Josiah's and—" Lionel's phone buzzed. His expression changed as he read the message. "Speaking of Autumn," he turned his phone around. There on the screen was a post from Autumn's personal Instagram, a photo of me from yesterday, clearly taken without my knowledge, slumped against my car with wine bottles visible through the window. The caption read, "Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is admit you need help. Praying for you, M." The sympathy comments were already rolling in. Poor Melina having a breakdown. Poor Melina drinking her pain away. Poor Melina can't handle rejection gracefully. "She's playing you," Lionel said quietly, "setting you up to look unstable before you can expose them." "I know." My voice was ice. "But she made a mistake." "What's that?" I pulled out my phone, opening the backup folder. She forgot to check her location settings when she took that photo. See the metadata? She wasn't driving by my house randomly. She was parked there for 3 hours, waiting. Lionel's eyebrows rose. That's stalking. Yes, I smiled, and it felt like baring teeth. And now we have proof. The pieces were falling into place, but not the way Autumn expected. She thought she was writing my story, the sad ex-fiance's spiral into obsession. But she'd forgotten something crucial. Every story has 2 sides, and I was just getting started with mine. The coffee shop was crowded, but Grayson found me instantly. Something about the way he carried himself, shoulders tight, eyes scanning, told me he was as used to watching his back as I was becoming. Melina, he slid into the seat across from me. Thank you for meeting me. Lionel vouched for you, I said. That's the only reason I'm here. He nodded, pushing a manila folder across the table. These are copies of everything. Bank statements, emails, wire transfers. What Josiah did to you, he did to me first. My hands shook as I opened the folder. The numbers were staggering. Hundreds of thousands siphoned from client accounts, all carefully concealed behind legitimate-looking transactions. How did you figure it out? Claire. His mouth twisted. She was my assistant before Josiah hired her away. When she left, I started finding discrepancies. The pieces clicked together. She wasn't just his mistress. She was his accomplice. Smart girl. He leaned forward. But here's what you don't know. Autumn's been part of it from the beginning. My coffee turned to acid in my stomach. What do you mean? She's the one who approached Claire, offered her the job with Josiah. They needed someone on the inside who could manipulate the accounts without raising suspicion. He pulled out his phone, showing me a series of texts. Claire got sloppy, left these on the company phone when she quit. The messages revealed a carefully orchestrated plan. Autumn had been watching me for months before Josiah proposed, learning my routines, my vulnerabilities. The trust fund wasn't just a target of opportunity. It had been the goal all along. Why? The word felt like glass in my throat. Why go through with the wedding planning? Why not just take the money and run? Because of your sister. Grayson's eyes met mine. Eliza works at First National, doesn't she? In the fraud department? The room tilted. Eliza, my baby sister, who'd been so excited about the wedding, who'd insisted on handling all the financial arrangements. They needed her distracted, I whispered. Keep her focused on wedding details so she wouldn't notice the suspicious transfers. Exactly. Grayson's voice was gentle. And it worked, until now. My phone buzzed. A text from Eliza. Lunch today? Need to talk about something weird at work. She's starting to notice, Grayson said, watching my face, which means they'll move soon. The offshore accounts are ready. Once that money disappears, it's gone forever. I stood up, suddenly unable to sit still. I have to warn her. Wait. He caught my arm. Think. If you tell her everything now, what's the first thing she'll do? Report it. The realization hit hard, and they'll know we're on to them. Let me help. He released my arm. I've been building this case for months. One wrong move and they'll vanish, with your money, my money, and probably half the firm's client accounts. My phone buzzed again. Autumn this time. Family dinner tonight? We need to talk about your Instagram posts. Everyone's worried. They're watching you, Grayson said quietly, waiting for you to crack, to do something impulsive that proves their narrative, the unstable ex who couldn't handle rejection. So what do I do? Play your part. His smile was sharp. Let Autumn think she's winning. Meet Eliza for lunch, but don't mention anything suspicious. Go to family dinner. Act appropriately devastated. While you do what? While I finish connecting the dots. He gathered the documents. Give me 48 hours. By then, we'll have enough to bury them all. I sank back into my chair, mind racing. What if they run before then? They won't, he sounded certain. Autumn's too invested in watching you suffer. Josiah won't leave without the rest of the money. And Claire? He paused. Claire's not actually pregnant. The laugh that escaped me was more like a sob. Of course she's not. One more thing. Grayson pulled out a final document. Found this in the firm's records. 2 years ago, Autumn tried to access your trust fund herself, claiming to be you. The bank caught it, but Josiah buried the report. My fingers traced the failed transaction attempt. She's been after my money since before I even met Josiah. Now you know who your real enemy is. He stood up. Question is, what are you going to do about it? I looked at my phone, at Eliza's worried text, at Autumn's fake concern, at the life I thought I knew unraveling thread by thread. I'm going to family dinner, I said finally. I'm going to let my sister-in-law comfort me, let her think she's won. I met Grayson's eyes. And then I'm going to take everything from her, just like she tried to take everything from me. 48 hours, he reminded me. I nodded, gathering my purse. 2 days of playing the victim, of letting Autumn think she'd broken me. I could do that. After all, I'd learned from the best how to hide my true intentions behind a smile. Autumn's dining room looked exactly the same. Family photos on the walls, the gentle clink of wine glasses, the perfect table setting. But now I saw the calculation behind every detail. The empty chair where Josiah should have sat, the way she'd seated me facing the wedding photo she hadn't taken down yet. More wine, Melina? Her smile was sympathetic, practiced. You've barely touched your food. I'm not very hungry. I forced my voice to crack slightly. Everything still tastes like ash. Eliza squeezed my hand under the table. My sister's presence was both comfort and torture, knowing what they'd planned for her, what they still might do. You'll get through this, Autumn said, reaching across to pat my arm. We're all here for you. My phone buzzed. Grayson, document secured, meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. Actually, I set down my fork, letting tears fill my eyes. I think I need some air. Excuse me. I fled to the bathroom, counting Autumn's footsteps behind me. 3, 2, 1. Melina? Her knock was gentle. Let me in, sweetie. Let's talk. I opened the door, face carefully tear-streaked. I'm sorry, it's just being here, seeing our photos. Oh, honey. She pulled me into a hug. Over her shoulder, I saw her phone on the counter, unlocked. Why don't you lie down in the guest room? I'll make you some tea. That would be nice. I sniffled convincingly. Could you tell Eliza I'll be out in a minute? Of course. She squeezed my shoulders and left, leaving her phone behind. My fingers flew across the screen, forwarding her recent messages to myself. There, conversations with Claire about bank transfers, screenshots of my trust fund balance, and something else, a photo of documents from my father's estate. My heart stopped. The timestamp was from this morning. Find what you're looking for? I whirled around. Autumn stood in the doorway, her mask of concern replaced by something colder. I was just looking through my phone? Amateur move, Melina. She stepped closer. Did you really think I'd leave it unlocked by accident? The air left my lungs. How long have you known? That you were playing us? Her laugh was soft. Since the beginning, the devastated ex-fiancé act? Please, I taught you everything you know about manipulation. Not everything. I held up my phone, showing her the forwarded messages. Like how you've been accessing my father's estate documents. Want to explain that? Something flickered in her eyes. You should have left it alone, Melina. The trust fund was nothing compared to what's really at stake. What's that supposed to mean? It means your father didn't die from a heart attack. She smiled, and it was terrible. He was getting too close to something at the firm, something that would have ruined a lot of people, including your precious mentor, Lionel. The world tilted. You're lying. Am I? Ask Grayson about October 15th, 5 years ago. Ask him where he really was the night your father died. Stop it. My voice shook. Just stop. You thought this was about money? About Josiah? She laughed again. Oh, sweetie, you're just like your father, so focused on what's right in front of you that you miss the bigger picture. Footsteps in the hall. Eliza, coming to check on us. Autumn's face shifted instantly back to concern. Feel better? She called loudly. The tea's ready whenever you are. I stared at her, seeing clearly for the first time the depth of her performance. Every smile, every sympathetic touch, every moment of our relationship had been carefully crafted. I'm fine, I called back to Eliza. Be right there. Autumn moved to leave, then paused. One more thing. That meeting tomorrow with Grayson? Don't bother. He won't be there. What did you do? Nothing yet. Her voice dropped to a whisper. But if you push this, if you don't back off right now, what happened to your father might look like an accident. What happens to Eliza won't. She walked out, leaving me gripping the sink, my reflection pale in the mirror. My phone buzzed again, another message from Grayson. Something's wrong. Don't trust anyone. Meet me tonight instead. I stared at the message, Autumn's words echoing in my head. October 15th, the night my father died. With trembling fingers, I typed, "Where were you that night, Grayson?" His response came instantly. I was hoping you'd ask that question, because the answer changes everything. I closed my eyes, listening to the sounds of normal life continuing in the dining room. Eliza's laugh, the clink of dishes, Autumn playing her part perfectly. The game I thought I was playing had just become something much darker, and I was no longer sure who was really pulling the strings. The parking garage was deserted at midnight, my footsteps echoing between concrete pillars. Grayson stood near his car, hands visible, eyes alert. He looked older than he had this morning, worn down by whatever truth he carried. "Did anyone follow you?" he asked as I approached. "No, but Autumn knows about this meeting." "Of course she does." He opened his car door, pulling out a thick file. "Because Lionel told her." The betrayal hit like a physical blow. "What? Your mentor, your father's friend, the man you trusted?" Grayson's voice was gentle. "He's been working with them from the beginning." "Prove it." He handed me the file. Inside were surveillance photos spanning years. Lionel meeting with Autumn in hidden places, exchanging documents, orchestrating the long game that had destroyed my life. "The night your father died," Grayson said quietly, "he'd discovered irregularities in the firm's accounts, not just recent ones, patterns going back decades. He called me for help investigating. My hands shook as I turned pages. You were working together?" "I was an FBI informant." He showed me his credentials. "Your father and I were building a case against a massive fraud operation. Lionel was at the center of it. But Autumn said you were there that night?" "I was, watching from my car when Lionel entered your father's office." His eyes met mine. 15 minutes later, your father had his heart attack. Bile rose in my throat. "Why didn't you stop it?" "Because I didn't know what Lionel was planning. By the time I realized..." He stopped, jaw tight. "I've spent 5 years trying to finish what your father started. Getting close to Josiah, tracking the money, waiting for them to make a mistake. And I was the mistake." The realization was bitter. "My trust fund, the wedding, it gave you the paper trail you needed." "I'm sorry." He touched my arm. "I wanted to warn you, but..." But you needed me to play my part. I jerked away. Just like everyone else. No. His voice sharpened. I needed you to survive. Why do you think I reached out when I did? Autumn wasn't just going to take your money, Melina. Once you served your purpose, once Eliza processed those final transfers, they would have killed me too. The words felt numb on my tongue. Made it look like suicide after my fiancé left me. Exactly. He checked his watch. We don't have much time. Lionel's planning to move the last of the money tomorrow. Once it's gone, my phone rang, Eliza's ringtone. When I answered, her voice was terrified. Mel, someone's in my apartment. I think, oh God. The line went dead. We have to go, I said, already running to my car. They're going after Eliza. Wait, Grayson caught up. It's probably a trap. I don't care. I unlocked my door. She's my sister. Then let me help. He pulled out his phone. I can have FBI agents there in 10 minutes. She might not have 10 minutes. I started the engine. Are you coming or not? He hesitated for a split second, then jumped in. Your sister's complex is on Wilson Street, right? Take Montgomery, it's faster. As we sped through empty streets, my mind raced. If Lionel's involved, everything makes sense. The way Autumn knew about Dad's estate documents, how they always stayed one step ahead. Focus, Grayson said sharply. What's the layout of Eliza's building? Security cameras, entry points. Parking garage has cameras, but the back stairwell doesn't. Second floor, apartment 2C. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Card entry at the main door, but the garage gate's been broken all week. Good, Will. My phone buzzed. A text from Autumn. Should have backed off when I warned you. Whatever happens to Eliza now is your fault. Attached was a photo. Eliza tied to a chair. Lionel standing behind her with one hand on her shoulder. The timestamp showed it was taken 2 minutes ago. She's still alive. Grayson studied the image. They want something. They want me to stop digging. I took the next turn too fast. But they forgot something important. What's that? I pulled into Eliza's complex, killing the headlights. They taught me how to play their game, how to smile while plotting revenge, how to make people trust you right up until the moment you destroy them. Melina? His voice held a warning. You want your evidence for the FBI? I checked my phone one last time. A message sent to myself earlier from Autumn's phone, still unread. Let's give them exactly what they want. A desperate woman making one last fatal mistake. Because that's what they expected. The grieving ex-fiancé, pushed too far, coming to her sister's rescue without a plan. They'd never suspect I'd learned from the best how to hide a knife behind a breaking heart. Ready? I asked Grayson. He nodded, drawing his weapon. Just remember, whatever happens up there, don't let them see what's really coming. I smiled, and it felt like Autumn's smile, like Lionel's smile, like every false promise they'd ever made. Don't worry, I said. They taught me that too. The back stairwell was dark, our footsteps whisper quiet on concrete. Second floor, apartment 2C. My sister was behind that door, and with her, the architects of my destruction. Remember, Grayson breathed, we need them talking. Get them to admit. I know. My hand brushed the phone in my pocket, already recording. Play the desperate sister. Make them explain themselves. He squeezed my shoulder once, then melted into the shadows beside the stairwell. I faced the door alone, heart thundering, and knocked. Autumn opened it, concern painted perfectly across her features. Melina, what are you doing here? Where's my sister? I pushed past her into the apartment, letting my voice crack with fear. Eliza, she's fine. Lionel stepped out of the bedroom, his familiar fatherly smile twisting my stomach. Just helping us finish some business. Right, Eliza? My sister sat rigid in a dining chair, hands bound behind her back. Her eyes met mine, not fearful, but angry. They hadn't broken her. "Let her go," I said. "Whatever this is about, she's innocent." "Innocent?" Autumn laughed. "She's been investigating the accounts, getting too close, just like your father." "Our father," I corrected quietly. "He was your father too, wasn't he? That's what I found in those estate documents on your phone. The affair, the secret adoption. That's why you hated me so much." Her smile faltered. "Clever girl, finally figured it out?" "Not everything." I moved closer to Eliza. "Like why Lionel helped you destroy my life when he was supposedly Dad's best friend. Because your father was a fool," Lionel said, his mask dropping completely. 20 years I spent building this operation. 20 years of perfect crimes, untraceable transfers. Then he started asking questions. "So you killed him." The words tasted like acid. Made it look like a heart attack. "I gave him a chance to walk away." Lionel's voice hardened. "He chose wrong, just like you're choosing wrong right now." "Am I?" I pulled out my phone, showing them the screen. "Because I just forwarded everything from Autumn's phone to the FBI. Bank records, conversations, proof of what really happened to Dad. It's over." Autumn moved faster than I expected, grabbing my hair and pressing something cold against my neck. A knife. "Delete it," she hissed. "Now." "Can't." I met Lionel's eyes. Dead man's switch. If anything happens to me or Eliza, it all goes public automatically. "She's bluffing," Autumn said, but uncertainty crept into her voice. "Maybe." I smiled, feeling the blade bite deeper. "Want to risk everything to find out?" "Because I've got nothing left to lose. You made sure of that." "We could still work something out," Lionel offered smoothly. "Money, a fresh start somewhere else. Nobody else has to die tonight." "Like you worked things out with Dad?" Eliza spoke for the first time, her voice steel. "I saw the real autopsy report, Lionel, the one you buried. The poison was subtle, but it was there." His face changed. "How did you access the sealed records?" She laughed bitterly. "I'm not just some bank clerk. I'm my father's daughter, and I've been building this case longer than you know." Understanding dawned in his eyes. "You were working with Grayson." "For 2 years," she met my gaze. "I'm sorry, Mel. We couldn't tell you. Had to let them think they were winning." "Sweet family reunion," Autumn snarled, pressing the knife harder. "But it doesn't change anything. Delete those files or—" The lights went out. In the darkness, several things happened at once. I drove my elbow back into Autumn's solar plexus. Eliza's chair clattered over. Lionel shouted. A gun fired. When the lights flickered back on, Grayson stood in the doorway, weapon trained on Lionel. 2 FBI agents flanked him. Autumn lay groaning on the floor, my knee in her back as I gripped her wrist, forcing her to release the knife. "Melina Baker?" One agent stepped forward. "We've got your statement recorded. You can let her up now." I stood slowly, watching Autumn's face as the handcuffs clicked around her wrists. All her masks were gone, leaving only raw hatred. "You really should have checked your phone's backup settings," I told her quietly. "Dad taught me about digital security when I was 12. All those incriminating messages you deleted, they went straight to my private server." "You played us," Lionel said, something like respect in his voice as he too was cuffed. "Made us think we were winning until the very end." "No." I helped Eliza up, hugging her fiercely. "You played yourselves, got so caught up in your perfect plan that you forgot the most important thing." "What's that?" Autumn spat as they led her away. I looked at my sister, at Grayson, at the family I'd chosen rather than the one that had betrayed me. "That real love," I said, "the kind that makes you strong instead of weak. It's the one thing you can't fake." Through the window, red and blue lights painted the night. Somewhere, Dad was smiling. Justice had finally come home. Dawn painted the interrogation room windows as I watched Autumn through the one-way glass. She sat perfectly straight, her mask finally cracking around the edges, still beautiful, still poised, but no longer in control. "Ready?" Grayson asked quietly. I nodded, gripping the file in my hands. Not the FBI's evidence. That was already processed, sealed, headed for prosecution. This was personal. The door clicked shut behind me as I sat across from her. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. "Come to gloat?" she finally asked. "No." I opened the file, sliding a photo across the table. "Come to return something." She flinched. The picture showed a much younger version of our father, holding a baby, her. On the back, his handwriting, "My beautiful surprise, my second chance." "Where did you get this?" "Dad's safety deposit box, the one you couldn't access." I pulled out more photos, more letters. "He kept everything, Autumn. Every birthday card you sent before the adoption. Every school photo your mom allowed him to have." Her hands trembled as she touched the papers. "He gave me up, chose his perfect family instead." "No, your mother took you away. Threatened to expose the affair unless he stayed gone." I watched her face carefully. "But he never stopped loving you, never stopped trying to protect you." "Protect me?" She laughed bitterly. "He was going to destroy everything, the firm, the accounts, because he discovered Lionel was stealing from you too." I slid another document across, bank statements, transfer records. "Your trust fund, the one your mother set up? Lionel emptied it years ago. Dad was trying to get it back." The color drained from her face. "You're lying. Check the dates, the transfers, the account numbers." My voice softened. "He died trying to save both his daughters." Silence stretched between us, heavy with 2 decades of manufactured hate. "Why are you showing me this?" she whispered. "Because I need you to understand something." I leaned forward. What happened to us? The lies, the manipulation, the betrayal. That was Lionel. Not Dad, not me, and not you, originally. Originally? The first time you reached out to me, at that coffee shop 3 years ago? That was real, wasn't it? You wanted to know your sister. She looked away, but not before I saw tears threatening. "It doesn't matter now." "It matters." I stood up, gathering the photos. "Because Dad believed in second chances, in redemption, even for people who've lost their way." "I tried to destroy you," she said flatly. "Helped kill our father. Some things don't deserve redemption." "Maybe not." I moved to the door, then paused. "But some things deserve truth, the full truth." "What do you mean?" "Check the last page of that file. Dad left letters for both of us. I've had mine for years." I met her eyes. "It's time you read yours." I left her there with shaking hands and tears finally falling, the weight of truth heavier than any revenge could be. Eliza waited in the hallway, arms crossed. "Think she'll do the right thing?" "You mean testify against Lionel? Give back the money?" I shrugged. "Maybe, maybe not. But at least now she'll choose for herself." "And if she chooses wrong? Then we'll handle it." I linked my arm through hers. "Together this time. No more secrets." "Speaking of secrets," she grinned suddenly. "Grayson's been asking about you." "Don't start." "I'm just saying, for an FBI agent, he's pretty obvious about his feelings." "I'm done with obvious." I smiled, thinking of the quiet moments during the investigation, the way he'd looked at me when he thought I wasn't watching. "I prefer honest." Outside, the morning sun warmed my face. My phone buzzed, a message from the estate lawyer. Dad's cases were being reopened, his reputation restored. Justice, finally wearing his name proudly. "Want to get breakfast?" Eliza asked. "I know a place." Actually, I looked at the file in my hands. at the sister who'd stood beside me, at the future stretching unmarked before us. I want to go home, see those old videos of Dad, remember who we were before all this, before the lies, before we learned to tell them. I squeezed her hand. Sometimes you have to get lost in the dark to recognize what's true. We walked to my car together, leaving behind the shadows of what was for the promise of what could be. Autumn had taught me how to wear masks, how to hide behind perfect smiles and calculated words. But Dad, he taught me something far more powerful, how to take them off. And in the end, that made all the difference.
The text message from my daughter made my hands shake. Mom, I can't take it anymore. They said I'm going to hell. My name is Juliana, and until 6 months ago, I thought I was doing okay as a single mom. Sure, the divorce 3 years back had been messy, but Lexi and I had found our rhythm. Then everything changed when she came out to her father. I was in the middle of organizing our annual Pride rally when Lexi called me sobbing. Dad and Vanessa won't let me wear what I want to school, she choked out. They made me change 3 times this morning. Said I look too gay. My blood boiled. I'm coming to pick you up right now. No, Mom, please. Dad will just get angrier. I gripped my phone tighter. Put him on. Juliana, Greg's voice dripped with condescension. Don't start. We're just trying to protect her from making choices she'll regret. Choices? Like being herself? She's confused. And your activism isn't helping. I heard Vanessa in the background, her lawyer voice sharp and clear. Greg, don't engage. We've discussed this. My brother Glenn had warned me this would happen. The second Greg married that corporate shark, he'd said, I knew they'd try to control everything. Later that evening, I sat with Lexi on our worn leather couch, her head on my shoulder as she showed me the messages they'd been sending her. Each one felt like a knife to my heart. God doesn't make mistakes, Vanessa had written. You're just going through a phase. Think about your future, Greg texted. No good college will want someone who presents themselves like this. Mom? Lexi's voice was small. Why do they hate who I am? I pulled her closer. They don't hate you, baby. They hate what they don't understand. And that's their problem, not yours. My phone buzzed. It was Patricia, my best friend and fellow activist. Tell me you've seen the Facebook post, she said when I answered. What post? Greg's, about praying for confused youth. He basically outed Lexi to their entire church community. I felt the rage rise in my chest. He did what? I've got screenshots. And Juliana? It gets worse. Vanessa commented about seeking intervention for Lexi. I looked at my daughter, now curled up with her sketchbook, drawing the fierce, beautiful characters that helped her escape. She was wearing the rainbow bracelet I'd given her, though she had to hide it at her father's house. Patricia, I need a favor. Can you recommend a good family lawyer? Already on it. Remember Maria from the center? Her partner specializes in LGBTQ+ family law. I'll send you her number. That night, after Lexi went to bed, I sat at my kitchen table with a glass of wine, staring at old family photos on my phone. There was one from just 3 years ago, Greg, Lexi, and me at her middle school graduation. We were all smiling. It looked so normal, so perfect. The next photo was from last month's Pride March. Lexi, surrounded by our chosen family, beaming in her handmade Love is Love shirt. That was real happiness. That was my daughter, finally free to be herself. My brother Glenn called just as I was about to head to bed. You okay, sis? No, I admitted. I'm angry and scared. What are you going to do about it? I thought about Lexi's tears, about Greg's public shaming, about Vanessa's cold legal threats. I'm going to fight, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. I'm filing for full custody. It'll get ugly, Glenn warned. Greg won't back down easily, and Vanessa knows every legal trick in the book. I don't care. They're hurting my baby. This ends now. Then you better be ready for war, Glenn said, because they'll use everything against you. Your activism, your lifestyle, your friends. Let them try. I opened my laptop and started typing an email to the lawyer Patricia recommended. Some things are worth fighting for. As I wrote, Another text from Lexi lit up my phone. Mom, can you come check on me? Had a nightmare. I found her sitting up in bed, hugging her knees. Same dream? She nodded. The one where Dad locks me in my room until I turn normal. I sat on her bed, pulling her into a fierce hug. Listen to me, Lexi. You are normal. You are perfect exactly as you are. And I promise you, I will never let anyone lock away who you are. Even Dad? Especially Dad. As I held her, I knew tomorrow would bring the start of the biggest battle of my life. But looking at my daughter, strong, beautiful, and finally beginning to understand who she was, I knew it was a battle I couldn't afford to lose. The courthouse lobby felt colder than it should have for a summer morning. Lexi's hand trembled in mine as our lawyer, Diana, reviewed our strategy one last time. Remember, Diana said, straightening her blazer, let me do most of the talking. Judge Rivera is fair, but she's traditional. We need to present this carefully. Glenn appeared with coffee cups for everyone. Thought we could use some liquid courage. Thanks, I managed, though my stomach was too knotted to drink. I watched the entrance, knowing any minute Greg and Vanessa would walk through those doors. Mom? Lexi whispered. What if... The clicking of expensive heels cut her off. Vanessa strode in, Greg trailing behind her like an obedient shadow. Her designer suit probably cost more than my monthly rent. Juliana, Vanessa nodded curtly. I hope you realize this is completely unnecessary. We could have handled this privately. Like how you privately posted about my daughter on Facebook? I shot back. Diana touched my arm. Not here. Greg wouldn't even look at Lexi. He stood examining his phone as if his daughter wasn't right there, wearing her heart on her sleeve and a pride pin on her backpack. All rise, the bailiff called, and we filed into the courtroom. Judge Rivera looked exactly as Patricia had described, stern, shrewd, with reading glasses perched on her nose like tiny watchtowers. Your Honor, Vanessa began, every inch the polished attorney. This is a simple case of parental alienation. Ms. Wise has been encouraging rebellious behavior. Objection, Diana interrupted. Counsel is characterizing sexual orientation as rebellion. Sustained, Judge Rivera said. Ms. Lee, choose your words more carefully. I watched Lexi from the corner of my eye. She sat straight-backed, chin up, but I could see her fingers working anxiously at the edge of her sleeve. The morning dragged on through preliminary motions. Vanessa threw around terms like undue influence and psychological manipulation. Diana countered with documentation of Greg's social media posts and text messages. During a brief recess, Glenn pulled me aside. You're doing great, sis. But there's something you should know. I overheard Vanessa on her phone earlier. Something about bringing in a conversion therapy expert as a witness. My stomach lurched. They wouldn't dare. They would, and they are. Back in the courtroom, Lexi's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and I saw all color drain from her face. What is it? I whispered. She showed me the screen. Greg had texted, Not too late to drop this. Think about what this will do to your college applications, to your future, to our family name. Diana noticed Lexi's distress and requested another brief recess. In the hallway, Lexi finally broke down. I can't do this, she sobbed. Maybe they're right. Maybe I should just pretend. Patricia, who had been sitting quietly in the gallery for support, stepped forward. Hey, kiddo. Remember what you told me at the youth center last week? About being tired of living in other people's shadows? Lexi nodded. That girl who stood up and shared her story with 20 other scared teens? That's who you are, not what they want you to be. I watched my daughter straighten her shoulders, wiping tears with the back of her hand. You're right. When we returned, Judge Rivera had a surprise. I'd like to speak with Lexi, alone. My heart stopped. Diana squeezed my hand. This is good, she whispered. Judge Rivera wants to hear her voice. As Lexi followed the judge to her chambers, Greg finally spoke up. This is ridiculous. She's a child. She doesn't know what she wants. She knows exactly who she is, I snapped. You're the one who can't see it. Order, the bailiff warned. 20 minutes later, Lexi emerged from the judge's chambers. She was smiling, actually smiling, for the first time that day. Judge Rivera followed, her expression unreadable. We'll reconvene tomorrow morning. In the meantime, she fixed Greg and Vanessa with a stern look. All parties are to refrain from any communication with the minor. And Mr. Valdez, delete that social media post immediately. As we gathered our things, Lexi's phone buzzed again. Her face went pale. What now? I asked. It's from Vanessa, she whispered. She says she has proof that you've been taking me to inappropriate events and exposing me to dangerous influences. Glenn read the message over her shoulder and swore under his breath. They're going after your activism, Jules. They're going to try to paint you as an unfit mother. Diana overheard and stepped closer. Let them try. We have something they don't. What's that? I asked. The truth, she said simply. And tomorrow, we're going to make sure everyone hears it. Walking out of the courthouse, I held Lexi close. The battle was far from over, but watching her walk with her head high, pride pin catching the sunlight, I knew we'd already won something precious, her right to be herself. Mom, she said as we reached the car, I'm not afraid anymore. Neither was I. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but for now, this was enough. The mediator's office felt like neutral ground, all beige walls and generic artwork. I arrived early, watching Vanessa through the glass door as she paced the hallway, phone pressed to her ear. Ready? Diana asked, arranging her files on the conference table. As I'll ever be. Vanessa entered alone. Greg sends his regrets. He had an unavoidable business meeting. How convenient, I muttered. The mediator, a silver-haired woman named Rachel, began with the usual pleasantries. But something was off about Vanessa today. The sharp edges of her corporate armor seemed dulled, her usual confidence cracked. Before we start, Vanessa said, I'd like to speak with Juliana, privately. Diana raised an eyebrow. I advise against— It's fine, I interrupted. Let's hear what she has to say. Rachel directed us to a smaller room down the hall. As soon as the door closed, Vanessa's shoulders slumped. You have no idea what you're doing, she said quietly. The people you're up against? You mean you and Greg? No. She ran a hand through her perfectly styled hair. The church, the community, the donors who fund Greg's business, they're already talking about making an example of your case. Is that supposed to scare me? It should. She turned to face me. Did you know I had a girlfriend in college? The revelation hit like a thunderbolt. I studied her face, searching for any sign of deception. What? Her name was Sarah. We were together for 2 years, then my father found out. She laughed bitterly. He was a lot like Greg, actually. Traditional, uncompromising. What happened? What do you think? I chose my career, my family, the path of least resistance. She pulled out her phone, scrolled through it. Here. The photo showed a younger Vanessa, arm around a smiling woman with wild red hair. They looked happy, in love. Why are you showing me this? Because I need you to understand what you're risking. These people, they don't just disagree with you. They'll destroy you. Your reputation, your work, everything. Like they destroyed you? Her face hardened. I made my choice. And now you're helping Greg make the same choice for Lexi? I'm trying to protect her. By what? Teaching her to hate herself? To hide who she is? Vanessa turned away, but not before I caught the glimmer of tears. You don't understand the pressure Greg's under. His investors are threatening to pull out. The church board is talking about intervention programs. My phone buzzed. A text from Glenn. Where are you? Diana needs to show you something urgent. We should get back, I said. Wait. Vanessa grabbed my arm. There's something else you need to know. About Greg's past. About why he's so afraid of— The door opened. Rachel stood there looking concerned. Everything all right? Fine. Vanessa straightened, mask sliding back into place. We're done here. Back in the main room, Diana was reviewing a document with Glenn. Her expression made my stomach drop. What's wrong? They filed a motion, Glenn said. They're requesting psychological evaluations for both you and Lexi. They can't do that. They can, Diana said grimly. And there's more. They're subpoenaing records from the LGBTQ+ center. Every event Lexi attended, every counseling session. My phone buzzed again. A message from Patricia. SOS. Lexi just called me crying. Someone at school showed her the church's newsletter. They're using her story as a cautionary tale. I have to go, I said, gathering my things. My daughter needs me. Vanessa caught my eye as I headed for the door. For a moment, I saw that college girl again, the one who loved freely before the world taught her not to. Juliana, she called after me, whatever you hear about Greg in the next few days, remember I tried to warn you. I found Lexi at Patricia's house, curled up on the couch with a cup of tea. Patricia had already printed out the newsletter. There, in black and white, was a thinly veiled account of our family's moral crisis. They didn't use my name, Lexi said hollowly, but everyone knows it's me. I sat beside her, reading the hateful words through blurring eyes. We can fight this. Add it to the lawsuit. That's not all, Patricia said. Show her, Lexi. Lexi pulled up her phone, opened Instagram. Dozens of messages from classmates, some supportive, others cruel. But one stood out from a private account. Ask your stepmom about Sarah. Ask her what happens to girls who don't follow the rules. I thought of Vanessa's photo, of her unfinished warning about Greg's past. Something bigger was unfolding here, something beyond our custody battle. Mom, Lexi's voice was small. What are we going to do? I pulled her close, mind racing. We're going to find out the truth, all of it, and then we're going to make sure everyone else knows it too. Because now I understood, this wasn't just about custody anymore. This was about breaking a cycle of silence that had already claimed too many victims. Sarah Mitchell, Patricia announced, dropping a stack of printouts on my kitchen table. Class of 2003, same university as Vanessa, and look what I found in the campus newspaper archives. The grainy photo showed a student protest. In the front row, holding a Love Wins banner, stood Sarah, Vanessa's former girlfriend, next to a familiar face. Is that... I leaned closer. Greg? Yep, your ex-husband was quite the activist back then. Environmental causes, LGBTQ+ rights, you name it. Glenn whistled low. Well, someone had quite the change of heart. My phone lit up with a text from Diana. Meeting in 20, bringing someone you need to meet. At Diana's office, we found her with a woman about my age, dressed in business casual with short gray hair. This is Margaret, Diana said. She used to work for Greg's father. Margaret's hands fidgeted with her coffee cup. I've been following your case. When I saw Greg's name, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. What do you mean? I was there when Greg's father caught him with his boyfriend. The room went dead silent. His what? I barely recognized my own voice. Senior year of college, his father walked in on Greg and James, that was his name, in Greg's dorm room. The next day, James disappeared, transferred schools. Greg spent the summer at some spiritual retreat. When he came back, he was different, I finished, remembering how Greg had once told me he'd had a religious awakening in college. His father threatened to cut him off completely. Not just money, family, connections, everything. Greg chose security over love, just like Vanessa did. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Storage Unit 247, Riverside Complex, code 1103, go alone. That's Vanessa's handwriting, Glenn said, looking over my shoulder. Could be a trap. Or could be exactly what we need, Diana mused. Margaret, would you be willing to testify about what you saw? Margaret nodded. It's time someone stood up to the Valdez family's bullying. An hour later, I stood before Storage Unit 247, heart pounding. The code worked. Inside, a single cardboard box sat on a metal shelf. On top, a note. The truth sets us free, or so they say. The box contained photos, letters, newspaper clippings. Greg at pride rallies. Greg and James, young and in love. Vanessa's college journals. And something else. Financial records showing massive donations from Greg's father to conversion therapy programs. My phone rang. Patricia. Jules, you need to get to the youth center, now. Lexi's here and she's not okay. I found my daughter sitting with Patricia in the center's art room, tears streaming down her face. "Dad came to school," she choked out. "He made a scene in front of everyone." "What happened?" "He saw my art project, the one about family acceptance. He just lost it. Started yelling about how I was embarrassing him, destroying our family's reputation." "There's video," Patricia said quietly, showing me her phone. The footage was shaky but clear. Greg, red-faced, tearing down Lexi's artwork while students watched in horror. His words carried clearly, "No daughter of mine will promote this lifestyle." "The principal called him in," Lexi continued. "That's when he said he was sending me to this special program, to fix me." My blood ran cold, remembering the financial records I'd just found. Over my dead body. Glenn arrived minutes later with Diana. As they reviewed the video, I held Lexi, whispering promises I swore I'd keep. "This changes everything," Diana said. "Combined with what Margaret told us, and these documents from Vanessa, we can prove a pattern of psychological abuse." My phone buzzed again. Another text from Vanessa. "Greg knows I gave you access to the storage unit. He's on his way to destroy everything. Whatever you found, I hope it was worth it. Glenn, drive to the storage unit. Now, save what you can. On it." Diana was already typing on her laptop. "I'm filing for an emergency hearing. This ends now." Lexi touched the torn remains of her artwork. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Anything, baby." "Why do people hate themselves so much that they hurt others?" I thought of Greg and Vanessa, of all the lives twisted by fear and shame. Sometimes it's easier to break others than to face what's broken inside yourself. Patricia squeezed Lexi's shoulder. "But you're braver than that. You're choosing truth over comfort." My phone lit up with a photo from Glenn. Greg's car at the storage facility, Vanessa trying to block his path to the unit. "It's all coming to a head," Diana said. "Tomorrow's hearing will be explosive. Are you ready?" I looked at my daughter, strong, resilient, refusing to hide who she was, and knew the answer. They wanted a war over family values? Let's show them what real family values look like. Because tomorrow, the truth wouldn't just set us free. It would shatter the chains that had bound too many hearts for far too long. The emergency hearing turned the courthouse into a circus. News vans lined the street, and a small crowd of protesters gathered outside, some with rainbow flags, others with religious signs. "Ignore them," Diana advised as we hurried up the steps. "Focus on what matters." Inside, Glenn was waiting with Margaret and Sarah. Vanessa's ex-girlfriend had flown in overnight after Glenn tracked her down. "Where's Vanessa?" I asked, scanning the crowded hallway. "Haven't seen her," Glenn replied. "But Greg's inside with his father. They brought reinforcements, some big-shot lawyer from the church's legal team." Judge Rivera's courtroom was packed. Greg sat at the defendant's table, his father's hand firmly on his shoulder like a puppet master. The empty chair beside him spoke volumes. "All rise." Judge Rivera studied the room over her glasses. "I understand we have new evidence warranting this emergency session." Diana stood. "Yes, Your Honor. We have documentation of a systematic pattern of emotional abuse, including video evidence from yesterday's incident at the school." "Objection," Greg's new lawyer shot up. "This is a private family matter," which became public when Mr. Valdez chose to make a scene in a school hallway, Diana countered. "We have multiple witness statements, including from faculty members." The video played on the courtroom screens. Watching Greg tear down Lexi's artwork again, hearing his venomous words, made my stomach turn. But it was his father's reaction that caught my attention. A small, satisfied smile. "Furthermore," Diana continued, "we have evidence that Mr. Valdez's behavior is driven by his own suppressed history and family pressure." Greg's face went white. His father's hand tightened visibly on his shoulder. The courtroom doors burst open. Vanessa strode in, makeup smeared, designer suit wrinkled. "Your Honor," she announced, "I need to make a statement." "Ms. Lee," Judge Rivera warned, "you're late and out of order." "Please!" Vanessa's voice cracked. "This has to stop." Greg half rose. "Vanessa, don't—" "I've spent 20 years hiding who I am," she continued, ignoring him. I've helped perpetuate the same system that almost destroyed me. And now, she looked at Lexi, I'm watching it try to destroy another young life. Greg's father stood up. This is outrageous. Your Honor, sit down, Judge Rivera ordered. Ms. Lee, continue. Vanessa pulled out her phone. I have recordings, conversations between Greg's father and church officials, planning to send Lexi to the same conversion program they sent Greg to in college. The same program that drove 3 teenagers to suicide last year. The courtroom erupted. Judge Rivera banged her gavel repeatedly. That's a lie, Greg's father shouted. No, a quiet voice said. It's not. Everyone turned. Margaret stood up from her seat in the gallery. I worked for you for 15 years, she said to Greg's father. I watched you break your son. I watched you threaten and manipulate anyone who didn't fit your perfect image. I kept quiet then. I won't anymore. Diana handed the judge a thick folder. Financial records, Your Honor, proving the connection between Mr. Valdez Sr. and these illegal conversion programs. Greg seemed to collapse in on himself. Dad, he whispered, you promised you'd never... Not to Lexi. You weak, pathetic, his father started, but Judge Rivera's gavel cut him off. That's enough. Mr. Valdez Sr., you will remove yourself from my courtroom immediately. Officers, please escort him out. As security led Greg's father away, Sarah stepped forward. Your Honor, I'd like to testify about what these programs really do to young people. The next hour was devastating. Sarah and others shared their stories of trauma and abuse. Greg sat silent, tears streaming down his face. Vanessa moved to sit beside him, her own mask finally shattered. Mom, Lexi whispered beside me. Can I speak? I squeezed her hand. Are you sure? She nodded, standing before I could answer. Your Honor, I'd like to say something to my dad. Judge Rivera nodded gently. Go ahead, Lexi. Lexi turned to face Greg. Dad, I love you, but I won't let you or anyone else make me hate myself. I won't disappear. I won't change. And if you can't accept me as I am, then maybe you need to remember who you used to be, the person who stood up for love before fear won. Greg covered his face with his hands, shoulders shaking. Given the evidence presented, Judge Rivera announced, I'm granting immediate full custody to Juliana, with supervised visitation rights for Mr. Valdez contingent upon completion of LGBTQ+ sensitivity training and family counseling. As people began filing out, Greg approached us slowly, his father's influence visibly lifting from his shoulders. Juliana, he said softly, I'm so sorry. To both of you. I forgot who I was, who I could be. It's not me you need to apologize to, I replied, looking at our daughter. Lexi stood tall, pride pin glinting on her jacket, finally free to be herself. The healing would take time, but as we left the courthouse, stepping into the sunlight past the dispersing crowds, I knew something fundamental had shifted. Not just for our family, but for every family trapped in the shadows of fear and shame. The youth center buzzed with nervous energy. 2 weeks after the emergency hearing, Lexi was finally ready to tell her story, not just to the court, but to the world. You don't have to do this, I reminded her, as she adjusted her microphone. Local news cameras were setting up in the back of the room. Yes, I do, she said firmly. For all the kids who can't speak up yet. Patricia had organized the press conference perfectly. Rainbow flags hung alongside hand-painted signs reading, Love wins, and family means everyone. The room was packed with supporters, including several of Lexi's classmates. 5 minutes, Glenn called out, checking his watch. The back door opened. Greg slipped in quietly, looking uncomfortable in casual clothes instead of his usual business suit. Vanessa followed, carrying a small rainbow flag. Is it okay that they're here? Patricia whispered to me. Before I could answer, Lexi walked over to them. You came. Greg nodded, clearing his throat. I wanted to hear what you have to say. Really hear it this time. Diana appeared at my elbow. Heads up! Greg's father just pulled up outside with some church protesters. Should we cancel? I asked, watching Lexi. No, she said, overhearing. Let them come. Let them hear the truth, too. The cameras started rolling. Lexi stepped up to the podium, hands steady as she unfolded her prepared speech. But instead of reading it, she set it aside. "My name is Lexi," she began, "and this is my story. Not the version my grandfather wanted to tell. Not the cautionary tale my father's church tried to make it. My real story." The room fell silent. 2 months ago, my father ripped down my artwork because it showed two girls holding hands. He was afraid, not of the art, but of what it revealed about me, about him, about the walls we build to hide our truths. Greg shifted in his seat, but didn't look away. I watched my stepmother bury who she was for years. I watched my father forget the person he used to be. Someone who fought for justice, who believed in love. And I decided I wouldn't do the same. Outside, we could hear the protesters starting to chant. Lexi raised her voice slightly. "To every kid sitting in their room right now, afraid to tell their parents who they are, you're not alone. To every parent choosing between their child's truth and their community's approval, choose your child. Always choose your child." Tears streamed down Vanessa's face. Greg reached for her hand. "My grandfather tried to send me to a place that breaks people, makes them hate themselves. But hate isn't stronger than love. Fear isn't stronger than truth." The back doors burst open. Greg's father stood there, face red with anger. "This is an abomination." Security moved to intercept him, but Lexi held up her hand. "No, let him stay. He needs to hear this most of all." Her grandfather froze, caught off guard by her calm authority. "You tried to break your own son," Lexi continued, looking directly at him. "You almost succeeded. But love is stronger than your fear. Truth is stronger than your shame. And I'm stronger than your hatred." "How dare you?" he started. "No." Greg stood up suddenly. "How dare you, Dad? How dare you try to do to my daughter what you did to me?" The room erupted in applause. News cameras swiveled between Greg and his father. "You're all sick," the older man spat, but his voice wavered. "The only sickness here," Vanessa said clearly, "is the poison of intolerance you've been spreading for decades." Security finally escorted him out. Lexi waited for quiet before continuing. "Today, I'm not just speaking for myself. I'm speaking for Sarah, who lost years of her life to fear, for my stepmother, who's finally learning to be herself again, for my father, who's choosing love over fear, even though it's hard." Greg wiped his eyes openly now. "But mostly, I'm speaking for every kid who's been told they need to be fixed. You don't. You're not broken. You're beautiful and brave and worthy of love exactly as you are." The room exploded in cheers. Patricia was sobbing openly. Glenn whistled and clapped. "One last thing," Lexi said. "To the people who run these conversion programs, who profit from pain and shame, we're coming for you. With truth, with love, and with the law. Your time is over." As reporters began shouting questions, Greg made his way to the podium. Without a word, he hugged Lexi tightly. "I'm so proud of you," he whispered, loud enough for the microphone to catch. "So proud of who you are." Vanessa joined them, then me. Cameras flashed as we stood together, not a broken family, but a healing one. Later, as we cleaned up the center, Lexi found her grandfather's abandoned protest sign. She turned it over and wrote in bold letters, "Love wins." "What should we do with it?" she asked. "Keep it," I said, "as a reminder that truth always comes out, that love always wins in the end." She smiled, pinning it to the wall alongside her restored artwork. "Even when it takes 3 generations?" "Especially then. Because sometimes the greatest victory isn't just in speaking your truth, but in helping others find the courage to speak theirs too." The final hearing felt different from all the others. Maybe it was the sunlight streaming through the courthouse windows, or maybe it was the crowd of supporters filling every bench, students, parents, and activists wearing rainbow pins matching Lexi's. "Nervous?" Glenn asked, adjusting his tie. "Not anymore," I replied, watching Greg and Vanessa enter together. They'd both resigned from the church board yesterday, a decision that had made headlines. Judge Rivera called the session to order. "Before we proceed, I understand Ms. Lee has a statement?" Vanessa stood, her designer suit replaced by a simple blazer and pants. "Yes, Your Honor. I need to confess something." The room hushed. 10 years ago, I was part of the legal team that helped cover up 3 suicide attempts at New Dawn Conversion Center. I drafted the non-disclosure agreements. I threatened the families with lawsuits if they spoke out. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. I did it because I was afraid, because I'd been through a program like that myself, and fear becomes a habit, but not anymore. She pulled out a thick folder. These are all the documents, every case, every cover-up, every payment. Greg's father, sitting in the back row, stood up. This is a violation of attorney-client privilege. Actually, Diana interjected, since these documents reveal ongoing criminal activity, they're exempt from privilege. Mr. Valdez Sr., Judge Rivera warned, one more outburst and you'll be removed. Again. Vanessa continued, her voice stronger. I'm prepared to testify about everything I witnessed, about how these programs operate, how they target vulnerable families, how they destroy young lives in the name of healing. 2 police officers entered the courtroom quietly, taking positions near the exits. Furthermore, Vanessa pulled out her phone. I have recorded conversations with board members discussing how to hide the death of a 16-year-old participant last summer. The room erupted. Greg's father lunged forward, but security intercepted him. You'll regret this, he shouted as they led him away. All of you. No, Greg stood up. We regret staying silent for so long. Judge Rivera banged her gavel. Order. Ms. Lee, are you prepared to face the legal consequences of your actions? Yes, Your Honor. Whatever it takes to make this right. Very well. Bailiff, please take Ms. Lee's statement for the record. She turned to Greg. Mr. Valdez, you have something to add? Greg approached the bench, pulling out an envelope. My resignation from my father's company and documentation of every donation they made to conversion programs. I can't undo the past, but I can help prevent more damage. From her seat beside me, Lexi squeezed my hand. The court acknowledges these submissions, Judge Rivera said. Now regarding the custody arrangement— Wait! A voice called from the back. Sarah stood up. There's more. She walked forward, carrying a laptop. I've been working with a survivors network. We have testimonies from over 300 people who went through these programs. Videos, journals, medical records, everything. Judge Rivera studied the evidence, her expression grave. This goes far beyond a custody case. That's the point, Your Honor, Diana said. This case exposed a system of abuse that's destroyed countless lives. We're asking not just for custody reform, but for criminal investigation into these facilities. The judge nodded slowly. I agree. She turned to the court reporter. Contact the district attorney's office immediately and get me the attorney general on the phone. The next hour passed in a blur of legal terminology and procedural details. But one moment stood crystal clear. Judge Rivera looking directly at Lexi. Young lady, your courage started this. Would you like to say anything before I make my final ruling? Lexi walked to the podium, tall and confident. Just this. No one should have to choose between their family and their truth. And no one should profit from teaching children to hate themselves. The courtroom burst into applause. Judge Rivera didn't try to stop it. In light of all evidence presented, she announced, I'm not only confirming full custody to Juliana, but I'm issuing an immediate injunction against all conversion therapy programs in this jurisdiction. Furthermore, I'm recommending a full federal investigation into these facilities nationwide. More applause, tears, hugs. Mom! Lexi threw herself into my arms. We did it! Greg joined us, looking both relieved and haunted. I'm so sorry it took me so long to stand up to him. You did it when it mattered most, Lexi said, hugging him too. Vanessa approached more hesitantly. They're taking my statement now. I might face disbarment, maybe worse. You did the right thing, I told her. Finally, she smiled sadly. Better late than never. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us, but it was the group of teenagers wearing rainbow pins who caught Lexi's attention. Thank you, one girl said, crying. My parents were talking about sending me to New Dawn next month. Now they can't. Lexi hugged her tight. You're perfect exactly as you are. Glenn appeared with Patricia, both grinning. Ready to go? The youth center's throwing a celebration. As we walked down the courthouse steps, past the news vans and gathered crowd, I saw Greg's father being led to a police car in handcuffs. He looked small now, his power stripped away by truth. Mom? Lexi linked her arm through mine. What happens next? I looked at our unlikely alliance. Greg, Vanessa, Sarah, all the survivors and supporters gathered around us. Now, I said, we make sure this never happens to another child again. Because sometimes justice isn't just about winning a case. Sometimes it's about changing the world. The autumn breeze carried the sound of laughter from the youth center's garden, where Lexi and her friends were hanging pride flags for the grand reopening. The building had doubled in size, funded by the settlement money from the conversion therapy lawsuit. Need any help? Greg called from the sidewalk, carrying a box of supplies. Dad, you came! Lexi rushed to hug him. She was wearing the Love Wins t-shirt she'd designed for the center's new logo. Wouldn't miss it, he smiled, setting down the box. Though I wasn't sure I'd be welcome. Everyone who chooses love over hate is welcome here, Patricia said, emerging from the building. Those are the new rules. Inside, volunteers arranged chairs for the evening's support group meeting. Sarah was setting up a display of survivor stories, photos, letters, and artwork from across the country. The wall behind her showcased newspaper headlines about the nationwide investigation and subsequent closures of conversion programs. Look what came, Glenn announced, waving a letter. The governor signed the ban into law this morning. No more conversion therapy in our state, ever. Applause erupted. Vanessa, who'd been organizing resource pamphlets, wiped away tears. You okay? I asked her. Better than okay. She straightened her community counselor badge. After surrendering her law license, she'd found her true calling helping LGBTQ+ youth. For the first time in my life, I feel free. The door chimed. A teenage boy entered hesitantly, his father hovering behind him. Is this where the parent support group meets? The father asked. Right this way. Greg stepped forward. I lead that group now. First time? The man nodded. My son just came out. I don't want to make the same mistakes my father made, but I don't know where to start. Start by listening, Greg said gently. That's what I learned the hard way. As they talked, Lexi tugged my sleeve. Mom, come see what we did with the art room. The formerly plain space had been transformed. Rainbow-painted walls displayed artwork from local LGBTQ+ youth. In the center stood Lexi's restored piece from school, the one Greg had torn down, now framed and spotlighted. Beautiful, isn't it? Sarah appeared beside us. The truth always finds its way into the light. Speaking of truth, Lexi said, Grandpa sent another letter from prison. My stomach tightened. What did he want? To apologize, he says, but also to justify everything he did. She pulled out the envelope. I'm not going to read it. Some people choose hate until the end. And that's their loss, I hugged her close. The center filled with people as evening approached. Teenagers, parents, allies, all gathering for the reopening ceremony. Even Judge Rivera came, wearing a rainbow pin on her robes. Before we cut the ribbon, Patricia announced, someone has a few words to share. Lexi took the microphone, looking out at the crowd. So different from the scared girl who'd texted me about going to hell just months ago. When I was little, I thought family meant blood. Then I thought it meant whoever shared your last name. Now I know. Family means people who love you exactly as you are. She gestured around the room. Look at us. Former enemies turned allies. Strangers turned supporters. People who chose love over fear, truth over comfort, courage over silence. That's family. Greg stood with Vanessa, both nodding through tears. This center isn't just a building. It's a promise. A promise that no child will face rejection alone. No parent will struggle without support. No one will have to choose between being loved and being themselves. The crowd cheered. In the back, I saw the teenage boy lean against his father, who wrapped an arm around him. My grandfather tried to break our family with hate. Instead, he showed us how to build a stronger one with love. So this ribbon cutting isn't just opening a building, it's opening our hearts. To truth, to healing, to hope. As Lexi cut the rainbow ribbon, the room erupted in celebration. Greg hugged her tight, whispering something that made her laugh. Vanessa and Sarah stood hand in hand, their past pain transformed into purpose. Glenn appeared with cake, Patricia started the music, and the center came alive with joy. "Mom," Lexi found me in the crowd. "Thank you for fighting for me. For us. Always," I promised. "And Mom? I've been thinking, maybe we should write our story, help other families find their way through the dark." I watched Greg leading his support group, Vanessa counseling a nervous parent, Sarah sharing hope with survivors. All the broken pieces of our journey had formed something beautiful. "You're right," I said. "Stories have power. They can break chains, open hearts, change lives." "Like ours did?" "Like ours continues to do." Because that's the thing about truth. It doesn't just set you free. It shows others the way to freedom too. And sometimes, the families we build from the ashes of what was lost shine brighter than the ones we were born into. That's not just justice. That's magic.
The boardroom fell silent as Whitney slid the manila envelope across the polished mahogany table. My heart stopped when I saw the return address, a law firm in Singapore. After 15 years of silence, my father was making his move. I'm Reese, CEO of Schmidt Textiles, though some days I still feel like that 16-year-old girl watching her father pack his bags in the middle of the night. The memory hits me at the strangest times. The smell of rain on asphalt, the sound of wheels on hardwood floors, my mother's quiet sobs from the kitchen. "They're requesting financial records going back 5 years, Whitney said, her voice cutting through my thoughts, "and a full audit of company holdings." I forced myself to breathe normally as I scanned the documents. He's got some nerve, showing up now that we've turned things around. "The board needs to know," Whitney warned, "before the rumors start flying." She was right, of course. Whitney had been my rock through the company's transformation. From the struggling workshop my mother ran to the international brand we'd built, she knew exactly what this meant. The vultures were circling. "Call an emergency meeting," I said. Today. 3 hours later, I stood before our board members, my mother's old sewing scissors hanging from a chain around my neck. They were my good luck charm, a reminder of where we started. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, "I've called you here because my father, Philip Schmidt, has made contact through his attorneys." The room erupted in whispers. Caleb, our senior board member, leaned forward. What exactly does he want? What he always wanted? Money without the work. I projected the financial charts onto the screen behind me. In the 15 years since he abandoned this company, we've grown from a local textile workshop to a global enterprise worth over $50 million. Now he's claiming his share. "Does he have any legal standing?" Teddy, our legal counsel, asked. "That's what we need to determine." I clicked to the next slide. "But I want to be clear. I will not let him destroy what we've built. My mother spent nights at that sewing machine while he was living it up with his secretary in Asia. Every thread of this company's success was earned through our sweat, not his." Samara, our youngest executive, raised her hand. "What's our PR strategy if this goes public?" "Transparency," I replied. "We tell our story. How a single mother and her daughter turned a failing business into an empire. How every employee in this room contributed to that success." The meeting continued for another hour, but I barely heard the discussions. My mind kept drifting to that rainy night, to the sound of his car pulling away, to my mother's face as she picked up her scissors the next morning and got back to work. After the meeting, Whitney caught up with me in the hallway. "You okay?" "I have to stop by Mum's tonight," I said, fingering the scissors at my neck. "She needs to know." "Want me to come with?" I shook my head. "This one's on me. But I need you to start digging. My father didn't spend 15 years in Asia just sightseeing. There's something else going on here." "Already on it," Whitney smiled. "Teddy's reaching out to his contacts in Singapore." That evening, I sat in my mother's kitchen, watching her prepare dinner like she had thousands of times before. Her hands were still steady, still strong from years of guiding fabric through machines. "I always knew he'd come back," she said, not looking up from the vegetables she was chopping. "Men like your father, They can't stand to see others succeed where they failed. Mom, I'm so sorry. She set down her knife. Don't you dare apologize for him. You built something beautiful from his mess. Now he wants to take credit? She reached across the counter and grabbed my hand. Show him exactly who you've become. I squeezed her hand, feeling the calluses earned from years of work. I will. My phone buzzed. A text from Whitney. Found something. Meet me at the office first thing tomorrow. You need to see this. I looked at my mother, remembering how she'd taught me to thread a needle in this very kitchen, how to make something whole from broken pieces. He's not getting a single thread, I promised her. She nodded, a fierce pride in her eyes. Then you better get to work. As I drove home that night, the rain started again, just like it had 15 years ago. But this time, I wasn't that helpless teenager watching her world fall apart. I was Reese Schmidt, and I was ready for war. Whitney's discovery couldn't wait until morning. I found her in the office at midnight, surrounded by stacks of papers and empty coffee cups. The moment I walked in, she thrust a folder into my hands. Look at the signature dates, she said, pointing to a series of documents. Your father's been planning this for months. Before I could respond, the security desk called. Ms. Reese, there's someone here to see you. My blood ran cold. I knew who it was before the guard finished speaking. He's not on the approved list, but he says he's your father. Whitney grabbed my arm. You don't have to see him. Yes, I do. I straightened my blazer. Send him up. 5 minutes later, I watched him walk through the door. 15 years had turned his hair grey and carved deep lines around his mouth. But his swagger hadn't changed. He still moved like he owned the room. Hello, sweetheart, he said, arms open as if expecting a hug. I stayed behind my desk. It's Ms. Schmidt in this building. He laughed, dropping his arms. Always so serious. Just like your mother. His eyes swept the office, taking in the awards on the walls, the view of the city. You've done well for yourself. Though I suppose I should say ourselves. This is still a family business, after all. Family? I couldn't keep the bitter laugh from escaping. Is that what you call disappearing with your secretary for 15 years? Lorelei was a mistake, he said, settling uninvited into one of my visitor chairs. I've come to make things right. Whitney stepped forward. By demanding company records? By threatening legal action? Ah, Whitney. He smiled at her. Still playing guard dog, I see. I taught you better than that. You taught me plenty, Whitney shot back, like how to spot a con artist. His smile tightened. I'm here to talk to my daughter, privately. She stays, I said. Now, what do you want? He pulled out a thick envelope. I've had my accountants review the company's public filings. Very impressive growth. But as a founding member of Schmidt Textiles, I'm entitled to my share. Your share? I stood up, bracing my hands on the desk. Your share walked out the door with you 15 years ago, remember? The night you cleaned out the business account and left Mom with nothing but debt and a mortgage? Ancient history, he waved his hand dismissively. I'm offering you a chance to avoid an ugly legal battle. 25% of current company value plus a board seat. Whitney snorted. You're delusional. I built the foundation of this company, he said, voice hardening. Everything you've accomplished started with my work, my connections. Your work? I grabbed my mother's scissors from around my neck, slamming them onto the desk. These scissors built this company. Mum's hands built this company. While you were living it up in Asia, she was working 18-hour days to keep the lights on. Where were your connections then? He stood slowly, straightening his expensive suit. I see you need time to think this through. My lawyers will be in touch. He headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and sweetheart, don't bother digging into my business dealings abroad. Some doors are better left closed. After he left, Whitney touched my shoulder. You okay? I realized I was shaking. He's broke. Did you see his watch? It's a fake. The suit too. Good knockoff, but I know our fabrics. He's desperate. That makes him dangerous, Whitney warned. What did he mean about his business dealings? I picked up my mother's scissors, running my finger along the blade. It means we're looking in the right place. Call Teddy. Tell him to focus on Singapore, especially the last 2 years. My father didn't come back because he missed us. He came back because he needs something. Reese, Whitney hesitated. Are you sure you want to do this? Fighting him could get ugly. Ugly? I laughed. Ugly was watching Mom cry herself to sleep every night. Ugly was working after school to help pay bills while my friends went to parties. He wants ugly? I'll show him ugly. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Everything okay? I typed back. He was here. I'm handling it. Her response came quickly. Remember who you are. You're stronger than his games. I looked at the scissors on my desk, then at Whitney. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we start digging. I want to know everything. Where he's been, who he's worked with, what he's hiding. He thinks he can walk back in here and take what we built. He has no idea what I'm capable of. Whitney gathered her things, then paused at the door. Just don't lose yourself in this, okay? But as I stared out at the city lights, I wondered if I hadn't lost something already. The daughter who once longed for her father's approval was gone. In her place stood someone harder, someone ready to fight fire with fire. I picked up my phone and texted Teddy, whatever it takes, find what he's hiding. Teddy burst into my office 3 days later, waving a stack of papers. You're not going to believe what I found. I muted my video call. Give me 2 minutes. Now, Reese, trust me. Something in his voice made me end the call immediately. What is it? He spread the documents across my desk, bank statements, contracts, and what looked like police reports in multiple languages. Your father's been busy in Asia. Very busy. And not in a good way. Whitney walked in as Teddy was explaining. Those textile factories he claimed to be partnering with? They don't exist. He's been running a sophisticated import scam, using fake companies to launder money. For who? I asked, scanning the papers. That's where it gets interesting, Teddy said. Remember that big textile consortium that tried to buy us out last year? Guess who was feeding them inside information about our operations? My stomach dropped. My father. Bingo. He's been working as their consultant, helping them target family-owned businesses for hostile takeovers. But here's the kicker. He's been skimming from them too. And they just figured it out. Whitney picked up one of the documents. Is this why he came back? He needs a safe harbor. More than that, Teddy said. He needs legitimate business credentials to avoid prosecution in Singapore. A board position here would give him exactly that. I sat back, letting it sink in. So he's not just after money. He needs us to save him from his own mess. There's more, Teddy hesitated. I found Lorelei. My head snapped up. His secretary? Ex-secretary, Whitney corrected. She's back in the States, working at a small accounting firm in Boston. She might know things, I said slowly. Details that aren't in these papers. Already ahead of you. Teddy handed me a business card. She's expecting your call. I stared at the card, remembering the last time I'd seen Lorelei, young, beautiful, hanging on my father's arm as they walked out of our lives. Now she might be the key to stopping him. I'm flying to Boston, I announced, standing up. Reese, wait, Whitney grabbed my arm. Think about what you're doing. This isn't just business anymore. You're talking about destroying your father. He destroyed himself, I snapped. I'm just making sure he doesn't take us down with him. Is that really what this is about? She challenged. Or are you still trying to punish him for leaving? Before I could answer, my phone rang. It was Caleb from the board. Reese, we have a situation. Your father just called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. Says he has evidence of financial misconduct by current management. He's bluffing, I said, but my voice shook. Maybe, Caleb replied, but he's convinced 2 other board members to support his motion for a leadership review. I hung up and looked at Whitney and Teddy. Change of plans. Book me on the next flight to Boston. I need to talk to Lorelei tonight. I'm coming with you, Whitney said firmly. No, I need you here. Work with Teddy, prepare a response to whatever accusations my father's cooking up, and get our PR team ready. This is about to get messy. 3 hours later, I sat in a quiet Boston coffee shop, watching Lorelei walk through the door. She'd aged like we all had. but gracefully. She spotted me immediately. "You look just like your mother," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. "Why did you agree to meet me?" She pulled out her own stack of papers. "Because it's time someone stopped him, and because I owe you and your mother an apology that's 15 years overdue." "I don't want your apology," I said. "I want information." "How about both?" She pushed the papers toward me. "These are copies of every transaction, every scheme, every lie he's told for the past 15 years, including what he's planning to do to your company." I leafed through them, my hands trembling. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because I was young and stupid once, and I believed his promises. By the time I realized what kind of man he really was, I was in too deep. This is my chance to make it right." My phone buzzed. Another text from Whitney. "Your father's called a press conference for tomorrow afternoon. Whatever you're going to do it fast." I looked back at Lorelei. "I need you to tell me everything, and then I need you to repeat it to my board." She nodded, pulling out a recorder. "Where should I start?" "Start with Singapore," I said, thinking of my mother's scissors hanging around my neck. "Start with the truth." I barely made it back to the office before dawn, clutching Lorelei's documents like a shield. Whitney was waiting in the lobby, dark circles under her eyes matching mine. "Your father's already here," she said, falling into step beside me. "He's in the boardroom with Caleb and 2 other directors." "Perfect." I pulled out my phone and dialed. "Lorelei, you're on speaker. Are you ready?" "Ready." Her voice crackled through the line. "The video conference link is set up." We pushed through the boardroom doors. My father stood at the head of the table looking smugly confident in another knockoff suit. His smile faltered when he saw me. "Sweetheart, this is a private meeting." "Cut the act," I interrupted, connecting my laptop to the room's display. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Lorelei Santiago. You might remember her as my father's former secretary." Lorelei's face appeared on the screen, and I watched my father's complexion turn ashen. "Hello, Philip," she said coldly. "Shall I tell them about the factories in Singapore? Or would you prefer to start with the money laundering?" "This is ridiculous," he sputtered, reaching for his briefcase. "I won't stand here and listen to—" "Sit down," Caleb commanded. "I think we all need to hear this." For the next 30 minutes, Lorelei laid it all out. The fake companies, the stolen funds, the insider trading. With each revelation, my father seemed to shrink in his chair. "That's enough," he finally shouted, standing up. "These are baseless accusations from a disgruntled ex-employee." I pulled out the documents. "Everything she's saying is right here. Bank statements, contracts, even photos. Would you like to explain this one?" I held up a picture of him shaking hands with the CEO of our biggest competitor. This was taken 2 days before they tried to hostile take over our company last year. The boardroom erupted in angry murmurs. Caleb snatched the photo, his face reddening. "You were working against us the entire time," he demanded. "It's not what it looks like," my father protested. "I was gathering intelligence." "For them," I cut in, "while taking a percentage of every deal, until they caught you skimming extra off the top." Whitney stepped forward with another document. "This is a warrant for your arrest in Singapore. Fraud, embezzlement, corporate espionage. Is this why you really came back? Hoping to hide behind our company's reputation?" My father's facade finally cracked. "You don't understand. These people, they're dangerous. I needed protection." "So you thought you'd sacrifice our company to save yourself?" I leaned across the table. "Just like you sacrificed our family 15 years ago." "I made mistakes," he admitted, his voice breaking. "But I'm still your father." "No," I said quietly. "You're just a man who taught me exactly what kind of person I never want to be." Caleb cleared his throat. "I move to reject any and all claims Philip has made against this company and its current management, and to formally bar him from any future association with Schmidt Textiles." "Seconded," another director called out. "You can't do this," my father pleaded. "I helped build this company." "And we rebuilt it after you destroyed it," I replied. "The vote, please?" It was unanimous. As security arrived to escort him out, my father turned to me one last time. "You'll regret this, Reese. You have no idea what you're dealing with." "Actually, I do." I held up my mother's scissors. "I'm dealing with a coward who's run away from every hard thing in his life." "But I'm not running, Dad. I'm standing right here protecting what matters." After he was gone, Caleb approached me. "We should discuss damage control. If this gets out." "When?" I corrected. "When this gets out. We're going to tell the whole story. No more hiding, no more secrets." "It could hurt the company's stock price," Whitney warned. "Maybe, but I'd rather take a temporary hit than live with lies." I turned back to the screen where Lorelei was still watching. "Thank you for everything." She nodded. "Take care of your mother. She deserves to know she raised one hell of a daughter." After the board dispersed, Whitney stayed behind. "You okay?" "No," I admitted, "but I will be." I picked up my phone to call my mother, then paused. He was right about one thing, though. Those people he was working with in Singapore, if they're as dangerous as he says. "Already on it," Whitney assured me. "Teddy's working with our security team to upgrade protocols, and Caleb's reaching out to his contacts in international banking to protect our assets." I looked around the boardroom, thinking of all the meetings my father must have held here years ago, all the deals and decisions that shaped our company's early days. "You know what's funny?" I said. "He spent 15 years chasing schemes and shortcuts, and all he had to do was stay here and do the work." Whitney squeezed my shoulder. "Come on, let's go tell your mother she doesn't have to worry about him anymore." But as we left the boardroom, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. My father's last words felt less like a threat and more like a warning. The news broke faster than we expected. By evening, every business channel was running the story. Schmidt Textiles CEO exposes father's international fraud scheme. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications. I was at my mother's house when the first real trouble hit. Teddy's call interrupted our dinner. "Turn on the news," he said urgently. "Your father's giving a press conference." Mom and I watched in stunned silence as my father stood before a crowd of reporters, looking appropriately devastated in what I noticed was finally a real designer suit. "My daughter's accusations are a sad attempt to rewrite history," he said, his voice trembling perfectly. "Yes, I made mistakes as a young man, leaving my family. But I've spent 15 years building legitimate businesses in Asia, only to have my own daughter fabricate evidence to destroy me." "He's good," Mom muttered, pouring more wine. "Always knew how to play the victim." My phone rang again, Whitney this time. "Our stock's down 12% in after-hours trading. The board's panicking." "Call an emergency meeting for tomorrow morning," I started, but Mom grabbed my phone. "No more meetings tonight," she said firmly. "Whitney, tell the board to wait." "Mom, You need to breathe." She turned off my phone. "You're playing his game now, rushing around, reacting to every move. That's exactly what he wants." "What choice do I have? He's destroying everything we built." "No," she said quietly. "You're letting him destroy your peace. Again." She walked to her sewing room and returned with an old leather portfolio. "Remember this?" I opened it carefully. Inside were the original sketches for our first successful clothing line, the one that saved the company after he left. "You were 16, Mom continued. "Everyone said we were finished, but you sat at this table every night drawing these designs, planning our future. You weren't angry then. You were determined. That was different." "Why? Because now you have more to lose?" She took my hands. "Or because now you have the power to hurt him back?" Before I could answer, someone pounded on the front door. Through the window, I saw reporters gathering on the lawn. "Ms. Schmidt, can you respond to your father's allegations? Is it true you fabricated evidence? Did you orchestrate this scandal to maintain control of the company?" Mom calmly drew the curtains. "Remember when you were learning to sew? What did I always tell you? Measure twice, cut once," I replied automatically. "Exactly. Right now you're cutting without measuring. Fighting fire with fire might feel good, but it burns everything down." My emergency phone, the one Whitney insisted I keep on, buzzed with a text. It was from an unknown number, but I knew who it was. Meet me at the old workshop. Just you. 1 hour. Dad. Mom read the message over my shoulder. Are you going? I have to know what he's planning. She nodded slowly. Then remember who you are. Not just my daughter or his daughter. Remember the woman who built an empire from scraps. The old workshop was dark when I arrived, but I could see his silhouette through the dusty windows. Inside, he stood among the abandoned sewing machines, looking oddly vulnerable. Nice press conference, I said. The suit's real this time. Had to look the part. He gestured around. Remember when this place was everything? It still is. Everything you threw away. I didn't come to fight, he sighed. I came to make a deal. Another one, like the deals you made in Singapore? Those people, they're coming here, Reese. They're not just after me anymore. The company's fourth quarter projections, the new factory contracts, they know everything. I felt cold. What have you done? I can help you stop them, but I need something in return. Of course you do. I turned to leave, but his next words froze me in place. They have proof that some of our early funding came from questionable sources that could implicate your mother. I spun back. You're lying. Am I? Where do you think I got the money to start this company? Those first few years. Did you never wonder? My hands shook as I grabbed my mother's scissors from around my neck. Get out. Think about it, he said, heading for the door. You have until tomorrow. After that, everything burns. I stood in the dark workshop long after he left, running my fingers along the old machines. Mom was right. I had been playing his game, letting anger drive every decision. My phone buzzed again. Whitney, you okay? Tracked your phone to the workshop. I texted back. Call Teddy and Caleb. Meeting at my place in an hour. Time to stop reacting and start planning. Looking around one last time, I made a promise to the 16-year-old girl who once sketched designs here by flashlight. This time, we wouldn't just survive my father's chaos. We would end it. He's lying about Mom, I announced to the group gathered in my living room. He has to be. Teddy spread files across my coffee table. Maybe, but we need to be sure. Those early company records are spotty at best. I've been going through everything, Whitney added. There's a 6-month period where the financial records just don't add up. Right after your father started the company. Caleb leaned forward. What kind of numbers are we talking about? $500,000, Whitney said quietly. Appeared out of nowhere in 1992. My stomach churned. That's impossible. Mom would have known. Would she? Teddy asked gently. Your father handled all the finances back then, right? Before I could respond, my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw my mother, holding a familiar metal box. I heard you were all meeting, she said, walking in. Thought you might need this. She set the box on the table and opened it. Inside were stacks of yellowed papers, receipts, and photographs. Mum, what is this? Everything I never told you about your father's startup money. She pulled out a document. I kept copies of everything. Call it insurance. Whitney grabbed the paper, her eyes widening. This is a loan agreement with the same people he's working with now, Mum finished. Yes, but look at the last page. Teddy flipped to it and whistled. You bought out the loan, in cash. Every penny, Mom nodded. Sold my parents' house, my car, even my wedding ring. Paid them off before you were old enough to remember, Reese. Your father never knew. But why keep it secret? I asked. Because men like your father, men like his business partners, they only have power if you're afraid of them. She touched my cheek. I wanted you to build this company without fear. Caleb stood up. This changes everything. If we can prove you cleared that debt, we can prove his current threats are empty, Whitney finished. But what about his other claims? The evidence he says he has? Mum pulled out her phone. Call Lorelei. She needs to hear this too. 20 minutes later, Lorelei's face filled my laptop screen. When Mum showed her the documents, she started laughing. Oh, Philip, she said. He never knew about this. No wonder they're so angry with him. He's been promising them leverage he doesn't have. What do you mean? I asked. Those dangerous people he's working with. They've funded several companies over the years. Their standard practice is to keep partial ownership, hidden in the paperwork. They think they still own part of Schmidt Textiles through that original loan. But they don't, Teddy grinned. Because you bought them out, Leah. Legally and completely. We need to move fast, Whitney said. Your father's press conference brought him sympathy. The market's nervous. Then we end this tomorrow, I decided. Mum, will you testify to the board? Better, she smiled. I'll testify to the world. Time everyone knew what really happened after your father left. We worked through the night, building our case. Around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from my father. Time's running out, made your decision. I showed it to Mom. She took my phone and typed, meeting tomorrow 9 a.m. Bring your friends. Mom, I protested. We can't let those people. Yes, we can, she said firmly, because this time we're ready for them. Dawn found us still planning. Whitney passed out coffee while Teddy rehearsed Mom's statement. Caleb worked the phones, ensuring every board member and key shareholder would attend. One thing bothers me, Lorelei said from the screen. Your father's too confident. He must have something else planned. He does, I realized suddenly. Whitney, remember those contracts he was looking at during the hostile takeover attempt? The ones about voting rights? But those were rejected. Check again. He had access to our systems for years. What if he changed something? Teddy's fingers flew over his laptop. Got it. There's a buried clause about proxy voting in crisis situations. If the company faces criminal investigation, the board can be temporarily suspended, Caleb finished, leaving control to the original founders. He's going to try to force an investigation, I said. That's his play. Mom picked up her old scissors from the table, testing the blade. Then we better make sure our cut is clean and final. As everyone gathered their things to prepare for the morning, Mom pulled me aside. Whatever happens tomorrow, she said, remember what these scissors taught us. A straight cut, made with confidence, can't be undone. I hugged her tight. I love you, Mom. I love you too, she whispered. Now let's go show your father what real business looks like. The boardroom was packed. News cameras lined the back wall, their red lights blinking like warning signals. My father sat at one end of the table, flanked by two men in expensive suits who radiated quiet menace. I recognized them from Lorelei's photos, the real power behind his schemes. Before we begin, my father announced, standing up, I have evidence of serious financial irregularities. Sit down, Philip, Mom said, walking in. The room fell silent. She hadn't set foot in this boardroom since the divorce. Leah, he stammered, this is a closed meeting. Not anymore. She placed the metal box on the table. Since you're so interested in the company's early finances, let's talk about them. One of the men beside my father leaned forward. Ms. Schmidt, we have documentation showing our organization's stake in. You mean this documentation? I slid copies of Mom's loan repayment across the table. The stake you think you have was bought out 25 years ago. By her. The man's face darkened. That's impossible. Philip assured us. Philip assured you of many things. Lorelei's voice came through the speakers. We'd set up a video feed so she could testify. Just like he assured me about the legitimate businesses in Singapore. Should we discuss those next? My father jumped up. This is a coordinated attack. They're trying to... For once in your life, Mom cut him off, stop lying. She opened the metal box and began laying out documents, photographs, bank statements. Here's the truth. My husband started this company with borrowed money. Money I repaid by selling everything I owned. When he left us for his secretary, he tried to empty our accounts. But I'd already moved most of it because I knew. I always knew what kind of man he was. The reporters were scribbling frantically. The board members leaned in, examining the evidence. After he abandoned us, Mom continued, my daughter and I rebuilt this company, not with schemes or stolen money, but with work. Real work. She pulled out old design sketches, my teenage drawings. These are the designs that saved us. While Philip was running cons in Asia, Reese was learning the business from the ground up. Enough, my father shouted. I'm invoking the crisis clause as a founding member. You're not a member of anything anymore, Caleb interrupted. sliding forward another document. "The board voted unanimously last night. Your shares are being frozen pending criminal investigation. Not of us, Philip, of you." The two men beside my father stood up abruptly. "This meeting is over." "Actually," Teddy said from the doorway, "it's just beginning." He stepped aside to reveal two FBI agents. "These gentlemen would like to discuss some international banking regulations with you." What happened next was chaos. My father tried to run, but security stopped him. His business partners were handcuffed while protesting diplomatic immunity. Reporters shouted questions as cameras flashed. Through it all, Mum stood calmly, one hand on the metal box that had protected her secrets for so long. My father looked at me one last time as the agents led him out. "Reese, please, I'm still your father." "No," I said quietly. "You're just a cautionary tale." After the room cleared, only the board members remained. Caleb stood up. "I think we've all seen enough. I move to permanently bar Philip from any association with this company and to formally recognise Leah's contribution to our founding history." The vote was unanimous again. Mom picked up her box. "Well, that's done. I should get back to my sewing." "Mom, wait." I grabbed her hand. "Stay. Please. We could use your wisdom here." She smiled. "You haven't needed my wisdom in a long time, sweetheart, but I'm proud of you, so proud." Whitney appeared at my shoulder. Stocks already rebounding. The market loves a good redemption story, especially one with documented proof. "Speaking of documentation," Teddy added, "the FBI wants to talk to Lorelei about testifying in their larger investigation. Looks like your father's friends have been running this scam across multiple companies." I touched the scissors at my neck. "Will you testify, Mom?" "Of course," she said. "It's time to close this chapter properly, with a clean cut." As we left the boardroom, reporters swarmed us again. "Ms. Schmidt, how does it feel to expose your father's fraud?" I looked at Mom, then back at the cameras. "This isn't a story about fraud. It's a story about legacy. About how two women took a failing company and turned it into something extraordinary. My father thought he could come back and claim credit for our success, but he forgot one important thing." "What's that?" a reporter asked. I held up Mom's scissors. The strongest threads are the ones woven with truth. Later that night, as we celebrated at Mom's house, Whitney raised her glass. "To the real Schmidt Textiles dynasty." "No," Mom corrected, smiling at me. "To the future. And to cutting away the past when it no longer serves us." I hugged her tight, feeling the weight of the scissors against my heart, knowing we'd finally cut the last thread binding us to my father's lies. The morning newspaper landed on my desk with a thud. Whitney pointed to the headline, "Former CEO pleads guilty in international fraud case." "He took the deal," she said. 10 years. Reduced if he cooperates with the ongoing investigation. I pushed the paper aside. "Good, let's focus on what matters." We walked together to our newly renovated workshop floor. The space hummed with activity, designers sketching, seamstresses working at modern machines, young apprentices learning the craft. At the centre of it all sat Mom, teaching a group of women how to properly measure and cut fabric. "Remember," she was saying, "your first cut sets the pattern for everything that follows." "Speaking of patterns," Whitney smiled, "show her." I pulled out the latest sales figures. Our stock had not only recovered but soared. The story of our company's true origins had resonated with people in ways we never expected. "Mom," I called out. "Got a minute?" She finished her demonstration and joined us. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, but I need your opinion on something." I led her to my office and unveiled the designs on my wall. "Our new line. I'm calling it Legacy." She touched the sketches gently. Each piece incorporated elements from those original designs I'd drawn as a teenager, reimagined for a modern market. "These are beautiful," she whispered. "But why now?" "Because it's time to tell our story our way. Not as victims or survivors, but as creators." I pointed to the centerpiece design. "See this pattern? It's based on your old scissors." A knock at the door interrupted us. Teddy entered with Samara, our youngest executive. "The apprenticeship program documents are ready," Samara announced. 20 full scholarships for young women from underprivileged backgrounds, complete with mentorship and job placement. Mom's eyes welled up. You're really doing this? We're doing this, I corrected. The Leah Schmidt Foundation for Women in Business, because every daughter deserves a chance to build her own empire. Speaking of building, Whitney added, the board approved the expansion. We're converting the old storage floor into an innovation center, small business incubator, design labs, training facilities. And guess who's running it? I grinned at Mom. She shook her head. Reese, I'm retired. You're experienced, I interrupted. Who better to guide the next generation than the woman who built all this twice? Before she could protest, Caleb burst in. Turn on the news. On the screen, one of my father's former business partners was being led into court. The ticker showed their entire network crumbling, companies across Asia being investigated. That's the last of them, Teddy said. Your father's testimony opened the floodgates. I felt a weight lift that I hadn't even realized I was carrying. Mom squeezed my hand. Now that's done, she said firmly. Let me see those scholarship applications. We spent the rest of the morning reviewing candidates. Each story reminded me of our own, young women fighting against odds, determined to create something meaningful. Remember what you said in that first board meeting? Whitney asked. About telling our story, about transparency. I nodded. Well, look around. This is our real story, not the scandal, not the revenge. This. She was right. The room buzzed with purpose. Samara explaining the mentorship program to Mom. Teddy reviewing contracts for the Innovation Center. Young designers sketching their dreams into reality. Ms. Reese, one of the apprentices appeared at the door. Could you help me with this pattern? Go, Mom smiled. I'll handle things here. At the cutting table, I showed the young woman how to hold the scissors, how to make that crucial first cut. Her hands shook slightly, just like mine had once done. What if I mess up? She asked. Then you learn from it, I said, touching the scissors at my neck. And you try again. That's the real secret to success. Looking around the workshop, I saw not just employees, but a community. Women supporting women, experience guiding innovation, strength building strength. This was the empire I'd really been fighting for. Not one built on revenge or resentment, but on opportunity and growth. Mum joined us at the cutting table. Without a word, she adjusted the apprentice's grip slightly, nodding in approval at the clean line she cut. Perfect, Mum said. Now you're ready to create something new. I watched them work together, the past and future aligned in perfect symmetry. My father had tried to claim our success, but he'd never understood its true source. It wasn't in the money or the machines or even the designs. It was in moments like this. The passing of knowledge, the sharing of strength, the quiet pride of women lifting each other up. Mom, I said softly, I think it's time to retire these. I touched the old scissors at my neck. She smiled, understanding immediately. Together we hung them in a place of honor on the workshop wall. For inspiration, I told the apprentice, to remind us all where we came from and how far we can go. The scissors caught the light, their well-worn blades still sharp and true, ready to inspire the next generation of dreams.